Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the 4:30 closed session, Murrieta City Council on January the 21st, 2025. Roll call.
Councilmember DeForest. Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Mayor Warren.
Here.
Let the record reflect all members are present with the exception of Councilmember Holliday and Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. If
Thank
I
you.
may read out closed session.
Please.
The City Council will meet in closed session on 3 items. CS1, Conference with Real Property Negotiators. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider written findings regarding the City of Murrieta's proposed surplus land disposition documentation for the property located at APN 906-080-041, a 1.73-acre portion of APN 906-080-042, and a 1.5-acre portion of APN 906-080-033. CS2, Conference with Real Property Negotiator. Recommended action. The City Council will conduct a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 to enable the City Council to consider negotiations and give direction to its negotiators regarding that certain real property, Town Square Park Amphitheater, 11 Town Square Park, Murrieta. The city's real property negotiators, the city manager, assistant city manager, director of economic development, and city attorney will seek direction from the City Council regarding the price and terms for this property. CS3, Public Employee Performance Evaluation and Compensation. The City Council will hold a closed session pursuant with the city's personnel officer, the city manager, pursuant to Government Code Sections 54957 and 54957.68 to conduct an employee performance evaluation of the city attorney and to discuss the compensation provided to the city attorney. That concludes closed session.
Are there any public comments?
Seeing none.
At this time, we will recess to closed session. With that, we are going to reconvene at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Good evening. I'd like to call the Murrieta City Council member to order on this date, the 21st of January. What a wonderful way to start my term. This is great. Thank you. Madam City Attorney.
The City Council met in closed session on 3 items tonight. The first was a conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. On this item, the council was updated, no reportable action. The second item was also to confer with the real property negotiator. Again, on this item, it was pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. In this item, the council was updated, no reportable action. The third item was a public employee performance evaluation and compensation regarding the position of the city attorney. Again, the council was updated and discussed an item, no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk.
Councilmember DeForest.
Here.
Councilmember Stone.
Here.
Councilmember Holliday.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Here.
Mayor Warren.
Here.
And as a note, I would like to note that Councilmember Holliday and Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle were present for all of closed session, and all members are present.
Thank you. Council, before we bring in our choir, would you please join me at the front seat so we can enjoy the presentation from these wonderful students? like to remind them that. as they are exiting the room. At this time, I would like to ask Reverend Melissa Rustler to please come forward for our invocation.
Let us be in prayer together. God, on this day, following yesterday, the incoming of a new president, the world is a place that is widely divided. There are people that celebrated yesterday, and there are people that are cowering in fear. And God, we pray that this would be a place where we all come together. We pray that within our city that we would demonstrate what it is to be loving and kind to one another, that we would listen carefully, that we would be willing to hear differing opinions, and that you would provide us with wisdom, that we might do what is best for our community. We thank you for those who are called to be our leaders, and we pray that you would bless them. We pray that you would give us all wisdom and courage to live our lives in a way that reflect your light and hope to the world. All of this, oh God, we see and hear in the songs of children, in their faces as they sing. Continue to lead us, direct us, and fill us to overflowing. And together, all of us say, Amen.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I'm sure all of you have heard we have a new city manager. And although it's not a requirement that he be sworn in, we wanted to do that special honor for he and his family tonight. We are thrilled to have selected such an esteemed, wonderful, dedicated public servant. And it is our pleasure and our privilege to have him as our city manager. So at this time, I'd like to invite our Madam City Clerk, would you please do the honors? Yeah.
For you to speak, so I'm going to move this out of the way. Would you like to repeat after me? I state your name for the record.
I, Justin Griffin,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
and that I bear true faith and allegiance
to the same.
to the same,
That I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion,
And I will well and faithfully
and I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I am about to enter.
Thank you, sir.
Can I speak from there, or do I have to?
Wherever you, no, that's a lovely place.
Okay. I just want to point out neither of us were looking, and they're both hard to recite, right? Like you actually have that memorized. Didn't even look at your notes once, and neither did I. So, I just want to say thank you. It is a deep honor that I get to serve this council and this community. Many of you know the story that my wife and kids and I were looking to relocate to a place in California that it would be good to raise a family, a safe community, a community that had warm weather, a community that had plenty of shopping and amenities but wasn't too busy. You know, we don't need to do much after 9 o'clock these days. And as we looked and looked and looked in the south and in the center and in the north area of the state, we literally had a circle around this area, around Murrieta. And the job ended up actually being kind of icing on the cake. We were already planning to move here and raise our kids here. Joined the city in April as an assistant city manager, and then had the great privilege of being honored to serve as your city manager more recently, and I look forward to a great many years with you. I want to say thank you, obviously, for selecting me. I want to say thank you to my family, who does make a sacrifice for me being in public service. In fact, my daughter is celebrating her 7th birthday today and is here in the council chambers. And then I think we've had a lot. You really want to lead that?
Let's sing. One,
okay.
2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ollie. Happy birthday to you. And then lastly, I really want to thank the staff team here at the city. We have quite a collection of dedicated public servants. They've welcomed me since the day I arrived. I really look forward to the amazing things we're going to do to make you and this community proud, in no small part at all to the really talented team that we have. So thank you again. I'm really looking forward to going forward.
Thank you. We thought that it would be best to apologize up front for all of the calls that we're probably going to do on the weekends that you probably don't want us to do. But we know it takes a village to have a public service in your family, and we thank you for all of the dedication and grace you are giving us to allow him to lead our team. So to you, we say thank you.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Everybody back? Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Madam City Manager, I'm recusing myself from item number 6 as I own property within 1,000 feet of this item.
Thank you. Okay, any other? May we have a motion and a second? We do. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. City Manager, may we have your update?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. We have a few items we'd like to present to you this evening, but first and foremost, we want to start with a discussion of the recent power outages associated with high winds events that we've had here in Murrieta. Obviously, noting the impact that has on our residents. We heard lots of stories about residents who were not just without power, but without water, food spoiling for businesses and households alike. And all the really significant impacts. And we thought that this was a good opportunity to come in and present to you some of the basics of how we manage that incident, put that in the context of emergency management more generally, speak to the community about some of the things that they're really concerned about, and give you kind of a high-level review with the willingness, of course, to come back at a later date and have a deeper dive in emergency management so that we can really help the community understand how we prepare and how they can also prepare for similar incidents in the future. So I'd like to invite our Fire Chief, Bernie Malloy, and our Public Works Director, Bob Mailing, up to talk to you a little bit about just what occurred and how that incident progressed over the handful of days last week and this week.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Warren and Council.
We wanted to take this opportunity tonight to give you a little bit of an insight into the city's response to the recent events that we had, and just make you assured that we had everything in place for any emergency that we were going to face over the past couple of weeks. So as I prepared a bit of a presentation here for you to walk you, the council, and our community through some of the steps we take behind the scenes as a city, as a fire department, a police department, and a public works department to deal with whatever emergency may come up during one of these wind events. We practice proactive operational readiness, and what that means is we are always looking at what weather patterns can do to impact our city. In the fire department specifically, we upstaff our fire department for wind events like this, and we see why after what happened in LA. We need to be ready for any event that can happen. It does not take much during a Santa Ana event to spark a major wildfire, and all of us on the fire department have been through these events before, so we know why we need to staff up. We have it in policy that if the wind reaches a certain threshold, which it did during this event, that we will upstaff an additional rig in the city, additional engines, so we staff a brush rig, and then we add an additional battalion chief just dedicated to city coverage. Those don't leave the city, so they supplement the 5 fire engines, 2 medic patrols, 1 battalion chief we have in place every day by adding an additional rig and a battalion chief to the city. In addition to that, within the Riverside County operational area and the fire departments here, we upstaffed 2 strike teams. A strike team is 5 engines assembled with a leader for like engines for a cause. And we put in place 2, one in the kind of north of and one in the south of Riverside County, assembled just in case we had a fire start. So we had surge capacity that we could address it quickly, because with the Santa Ana wind-driven fire, what is somebody else's fire quickly becomes our fire. What is our fire quickly becomes somebody else's fire. So we need to work closely together with other agencies when we have fires like this. And this is all in preparation. This is all before anything happened in LA that we did all of the staffing. We also had our EOC briefed, ready to go, and we knew that we were going to have the public safety power shutoffs. That's a reality now. That is a relatively new reality that we're really experiencing based on SCE's thresholds for turning off the power. So we were ready to monitor those. We have had them before in the city earlier this year, so we had a bit of a game plan, and we were ready and monitoring and just prepared for whatever was going to happen there. We also coordinated with PD to make sure that they were ready if we had a fire to implement evacuation orders and to carry out those orders. We worked with Public Works to make sure that they were staffed for any wind-related damages. We weren't really staffing Public Works with the intent of the power shutoffs, but that ended up being where they were very active. And then we began social media outreach on the 6th, which was 2 days before the wind actually arrived, just letting people to know, be prepared, know your zone, have your evacuation plan in place, the red flag warnings that we generally have. So when the wind did show up, we activated our EOC the day before the wind really started blowing, and we activated it what's called a management watch. We do not staff the facility, we just put the key players in place. They work together from their own workstations and their own departments to just start managing the event. This was largely to monitor the public safety power shutoffs, which I'll show you how we did that a little bit later on in this presentation. And it was good that we did that because we don't have direct communication with SoCal Edison on how they shut off or what their staffing is. We get an email that says your power's now shut off for certain. We get the whole city covered, but the email just goes to us, and that's the only notification we get as a city to do anything with this. So we had the plan in place, and then on the next day, on the 8th, we started seeing power shutoffs at 9:47 in the morning, and they go by grids, and those grids have to meet certain thresholds when SCE turns off the power. When they did start turning off the power, it quickly elevated to where we had many of these grids that were turned off throughout our cities. And this would go on to be longer power outages than we had ever experienced, so we really tested the city facilities and the city infrastructure to see how it would hold up when it didn't have power to it. So Public Works and PD began patrolling and addressing the outages on the stoplights. We knew that our stoplights do have batteries, but there is an amount of time that they're able, sorry, that's a call for our battalion chief there. There is an amount of time that they'll last before they turn off and go to flashing. So we had to figure out what that was. PD and Public Works worked great together on that. And then the next day, we moved our EOC to a level 3 activations. That's where you actually do activate the EOC, you do put people together. And the reason we did that is we realized we had to start addressing community requests and some of the things that were coming in for our community for us to help them with. And so we did activate the EOC to level 3. And that has a few more steps that we have to carry out now, like we have to do a complete after-action review on this, which we'll talk about as well. So fire stations and city buildings did experience outages in this, but we do have generators and backup power on those essential services facilities. So those all stayed online. That we knew that was going to happen, and that did stay in place. We, the very first day, did open warming and charging centers, and that was in the public library. That's so people that had their power turned off had somewhere to go to stay warm and somewhere to go to charge their essential equipment that they need, communication equipment and everything else. On the 10th, we started swapping out batteries. Public Works took the lead on that and started swapping out batteries in all of our stoplights. And this isn't like a small battery that you change on a phone or something. These are car batteries that are in the cabinet that essentially keeps those lights running. So that's quite a task and a lot of work for Public Works to do that for all of our stoplights that are affected by this. And then by the 11th, most of the public safety power shutoffs had been turned back on. And on the 12th, SoCal Edison started meeting with elected officials, yourselves, and the city manager, and started having those meetings about how we could better communicate. So the wind event went on for another week, and then subsequently, yesterday, we turned off some more power. But the large wind event carried on for another week. And during that time, we had some water issues in the city because we do have people that are not in water districts and get their water from wells. So anybody that had power off or power that didn't return, we had to help them solve some of those issues of how do they get water to their livestock, and we helped manage with that. The traffic light issues that we talked about, and then from the fire department and the police department, when the power goes off and on, you start having a lot of alarms that go off. So we had a tremendous spike in our call volume just for these ringing alarm calls that we went to see if there was a fire or if there was a burglary. And then on the 16th, we deactivated the EOC. So I want to talk a little bit about that, tracking the public safety power shutoffs. And this is a big giant spreadsheet. You're not intended to, analyze this. Councilmember Holliday, I know you're analyzing this. So, but what this is our disaster preparedness coordinator, Rachel Hollinger, monitored all of this for the city. We had over 150 emails that were just your power is on, your power is off to these certain circuits and notifications. She built this spreadsheet out of this. And what this does, it shows all the circuits that went on and off, when they turned on and off, when they came back. There are some gaps in there where emails didn't come. And so there was, it shows power coming back on a couple of times, even though we didn't have subsequent power turn-offs on some of these circuits, and the power did come off and on. But below that, what you'll see is a spreadsheet that shows the different things that we look at, more than just the power's off. We want to know how many essential use facilities are in that. Hospitals would be essential use facilities. How many of these facilities, care homes, do we have to be ready to evacuate if need be, to support with additional generators if that's a better solution? And then there's also our critical care patients. The critical care electricity is people that have medical need in them. So on these circuits, we were able to gain access through SCE who these critical patients are, and then we were able to give them calls to see what additional services they needed. Fortunately, unfortunately, a lot of those phone numbers aren't accurate anymore. So we did make an effort to reach out to all of those people. And then you see the customer totals on the right-hand side of how many people were impacted by these public safety power shutoffs. This isn't something that's provided to us. This is something we had to build ourselves to track this and see the exact impacts within our city. So public outreach is a big part of this. How do we message this to our community? We know that we do not have a robust media presence here in the Valley. We have 500,000 people in Southwest Riverside County, and we don't have any news station. We barely have any newspapers. So we know that we had to be very proactive in our messaging to the public. Part of that was the website. So you'll see this is a picture of our website, and I did want to get a police car in there to show that I am taking care of our people in blue. Up at the top of the banner, we had all the information there on the power outage. That, when you clicked on that, it had all of the information, everything you needed to do to go to SoCal Edison's, and that is up again today because we have had the public safety power shutoffs yesterday that were all turned back on today. Another thing we really pressed on was our social media, and this is going to flip through some of the social media that we put out over the course of this week. Like I said, we started on the 6th. The fire department did 75 posts through our various social media outlets. PD did 14 posts and the city did 25 posts. So over this 1 week period, we reached out about exactly 114 times through our social media channels to reach out to the public where we can. And, we understand that this is a proactive action that the public has to take in order to sign up for this, but we push it every opportunity we have, knowing that we're our own best source of media in this area. So what does it look like for the future? We actually had our first meeting today, our after action review on the public safety power shutoffs and how this incident went and the things that we can change for the future. This report will be coming out. This is part of what we have to do when we activate our EOC, is deliver a report like this, send it to OES. So today was the first meeting. We've already gone a long way to what we're going to do. But there's really 3 immediate things that we have to address. And the first is that we need to translate SoCal Edison's inadequate communication into a more precise and informative package for our residents. We need to give our residents what they're after because, frankly, they're just not getting it from our utility company. And we've had that direct communication with them. It's not meeting the needs of our residents. The next is we need to develop the relationships with our utilities so we can exercise those during public safety power shutoffs. We saw this with the fires in LA, not having communication between the water districts and the fire department. And we saw this during our event, having inadequate communication, and frankly, we were not treated like we were a partner during these public safety power shutoffs. And I don't think that was intentional. I just think it's not built into the system. In the city, we will proactively pursue becoming a partner with our utility companies so we have more of a say in how this operates. And the last is, this was really the first time our city was tested with any long-term power shutoffs, and we are all, through all divisions, looking at how it impacted us. We knew our essential services facilities would stand up because of the needs to we have generators in place for all of those, but we didn't know how our utilities would stand up, how our power lights would stand up over a prolonged period of time. And so we're looking at how we can better address those other assets in the city. At this point, I'm here for questions. Bob is here for questions that we can ask about any of the city infrastructure, and we're happy to address any concerns you may have.
Thank you so much for your comments. We really do appreciate your upfront and honesty about what went down at your end. I know that's very important for our public to hear that, as it is for all of us. We'd like to start with Dr. Lisa DeForest.
Thank you so much, and I'll reiterate that as well. Thank you so much to everyone involved in this. We never expected to be without power for several days. So I will just elaborate a little bit on what the community reached out to me. Was a lot of emails on the services closed too soon, that the library was closed in the evening, that it was like 8 o'clock or 7:30. I can't remember what specific, but it closed way too soon. So people were coming home to their home, and there was not, the library wasn't open or the senior center wasn't open. So that was several emails to address that. If you could maybe clarify that, and maybe we can put an action plan into place for that. The other thing is, when I was on the call with the electeds, I did hear Southern California Edison talk about, for medical need, that the backup batteries were free. So that they could put in there was a grant or something that they could do that. If we could get some information out to our residents that have that medical need, because I believe that this, as you do, it's not going to be our first power outage. So, and just speaking from experience, being on the west side, having batteries and solar, it does not, it's not what it was sold to us to be. We were without a well for 2 days, and with backup batteries only lasting 4 hours, because I was told it's the way the well works is 220, which pulls those batteries very, very fast. So I think that, right now, solar companies are trying to sell all the battery backups, and we know those last about 8 hours, and you can only specifically choose circuits. So I think that we need to be very transparent, maybe put something on our website so we don't have our community taken advantage of during this time. Also, were our police department also pushing social media? I kept seeing fire pushing, and were police also pushing social media
They did.
as well?
There were 14 posts by the police department over a
Okay.
couple of day period, so a couple of posts per day.
Okay.
And we were sharing each other's posts as well.
Okay, fantastic. Because I know there's followers that are following either, sometimes one or the other, so I
Yeah,
appreciate
we're
that.
all envious of their followers.
Yes, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to make you feel
That's
bad,
okay,
so yes.
that's okay. We're being transparent.
And I appreciate the areas that you want to address, and I really believe, speaking for my entire council, because I'm sure that we're all on the same page. If not, I'm sure I'll be told. But we need to push SCE to communicate with the residents, because they told us we were going to be out in 4 hours. They shut us off in an hour. You know, we have livestock, we have a ranch to deal with animals, and that was just not enough time to prepare. So that's all of my comments, suggestions, and communication with residents. So I appreciate you being there and answering all our calls and everything else. And I do appreciate police and fire for getting us through this as unscathed as possible. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, great job to police, fire, and really all staff. This was really our first true test of what power safety shutoffs were going to do to the city, and obviously for an extended period of time, we've all gotten emails from people that had hardships. Couple questions. How long do the batteries last on the signals before it goes flashing red?
That's a very good question. Similar to what Councilmember DeForest said, we learned also that our battery backups don't last as long as they're proposed to do. So there's also with the traffic signals, it's the first time we've seen a series of traffic signals been turned off in a power event. So our signals go directly to full operation on battery backup, which means it goes red, yellow, green, just like it's functioning, but that actually burns the battery out faster and faster. So as time went on, we switched to the red flash, red ball flash in all directions to allow the battery backup to last longer. Full operations is probably going to get you anywhere between 6 and 8 hours, whereas a red ball flash is supposed to last anywhere between 12 to 16 hours. We didn't see that in any of our signals. Actually, they burned out, lost power from the battery backups. So our Public Works Department, Jerry Aldridge's signal technician, went out and actually started swapping out battery backups from other working signals. The battery backups actually recharge as they have power in other signals. So he was constantly swapping out signals from batteries from working signals to the ones that were impacted. Going forward, we're going to buy generators that actually are going to be set up at each traffic signal to actually run the signal at full operations, or at the very least at red ball flash in all directions, and actually have someone man those things. Unfortunately, generators sometimes walk away during the night when you're not watching them, so it's just another impact that we will have. But the full operation of traffic signals is very important. We learned that. We were notified late on Wednesday night of the first night from PD that Whitewood and Clinton Keith was dark, no signals at all, very dangerous. Public Works was called, put out stop signs, barricades, and actually the next morning started working on the battery backup switch outs and utilized that for the Clinton Keith corridor, where was our biggest impact. Like I said, a series of signals out for 24, 48 hours at a time. We're not used to seeing that. No. Battery backups typically used for when you have a power shutdown planned by Edison to work on a overhead line. So we're learning. Again, the battery backups don't last as long as they're purported to work, as they're just, as any car battery, after about 5 years, dies in your car. The same thing happens with battery backups that sit in a cabinet for 0 to 5 years and are not used, and all of a sudden you're expected to have them available. So we're going to start a program of having more battery backups, batteries available, but also have the generators there to run full signal, or at least red ball flash on all of our signals in town when they do our impact like that. We had outliers like the Kalmia Washington signal, the Fig Jefferson signal, a couple up by the Loma Linda Hospital. Just depends on the circuit you're on and what gets turned on and turned off. I mean, the second outage, what was the last couple days? I was out the first night for 48 hours. This time I was not impacted. There was other signals that were impacted, not impacted. It's interesting. Caltrans signal at the 215 northbound off-ramp at Clinton Keith, not our maintenance, not our jurisdiction, went directly to flash and then started back up once the power came on. So it's interesting that but it was in flash longer than our signals were out of service. So there's just some things we've learned. It's a learning opportunity, and I think we're going to be better each time. It was much easier to work with it this week, than it was last week. So the Monday night call to get out and actually start stop signs, barricades. We had them staged at all the intersections so we can get those out quicker and just make things safer for all our residents driving through. It's looking at that. I went out Monday night, Whitewood and Clinton Keith was dark again. That's a scary situation when you're sitting there hoping that person coming towards you is going to stop or not going to stop. So it's just great to be able to have a response, to be able to get out there and put things in a safer condition.
Yeah, I'm sure there was no shortage of lessons to be learned through this event. So I'm thankful that you guys are staying on top of that and getting realistic timeframes on when signals would go dark based upon how long the battery's been there. My other big complaint that I heard is obviously there's a lot of people that had frozen meat, frozen food that spoiled. Something I would suggest that we take a look at is, in addition to the warming and charging center, is maybe we have some freezers that the community could say, hey, I don't want to lose, $1,000 worth of meat. I can come and put some into a freezer for a bit of time just to keep it from spoiling and maybe helping out our residents. I don't think that would be a huge cost to the city to have that available, but I'll let you guys, the experts, figure out if that's even possible. That's all I have. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you, Councilmember Holliday. Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a plethora of questions for you. First, you're absolutely right. The inadequate communication from SCE. I was also on those phone calls from statewide, and it was a debacle. The right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, and it was truly a mess. Just to give you an example, State Farm wanted to bring out a huge tent with their employees to assist the residents of Pacific Palisades. They had to go through a permit process, 10 days. So 10 days after the fire started, they received their permit process in order to put up this tent to accommodate the residents. Holding them accountable, I think that the city of Murrieta, we need to meet with them. We need to meet with all the agencies, and we have to have a plan in action and holding them accountable. With regards to Mr. Mayling's comment about the signals going down and the backup battery, and you're saying that this was a scary situation. Our residents were very scared. And I would like to suggest that if we happen to go through this again and everything that we put in place fails us, I think we should have public safety at every single major intersection to accommodate our residents. I want to thank you, Chief, and also our police chief for your communication. I shared everything. I shared it on Murrieta Talk. I shared it on Mapleton Talk. I shared it with the Colony. My question to you is, by any chance, I'm putting you on the spot right now, do you happen to have the statistics of how many people were reached by your social media? Was it 100,000? Was it less? Just curious if you have those statistics.
We don't have that yet, but that came up in our meeting today, that that's something that we need to get. Oh, do you have some stats? Christina was going to be working on that, so.
Yeah.
We have stats.
Yes, so just on a few of the posts, when I just gathered, so sorry.
How many likes did you get?
It was, we had one post, just specifically one post, that reached 23,000 people, and that was just one. So based off of just, I think, like 4 posts together, 5 posts, it was over 80, 90, there's 90,000 people it reached. Fantastic. And that was just on one platform. Mm-hmm. And that was just specifically looking at the city of, like just the city of Murrieta's Instagram. And similar, it was a little bit less on Facebook, but I suspect that if ours gained that much, PD and fire also, so it was a lot of people.
You know, that's fantastic. And another recommendation is when we have a crisis of any sort in our community, city manager, I think that we should even do a sponsored ad that targets our residents as well.
Yeah,
So,
and just,
thank you, Christina.
we have discussed that and be prepared to do paid ads for further reach.
Fantastic. Also, I just want to announce that on SCE's website, if you lost any refrigeration or freezer items, there's a property claim loss form that you can fill out. Good luck, but try it. To our police chief, I'm just really curious, do you happen to have a mass evacuation plan put in place in case of an emergency like this? You can come, there's an extra seat over here, please.
Oh, you can stay.
By mass evacuation, you mean citywide, neighborhood-wide? For citywide, I mean, it's kind of difficult because every situation is going to be different.
Right.
We don't know which streets are going to be blocked, what won't be accessible. So it is kind of a case-by-case basis. I mean, we're prepared in our planning, in our understanding of what needs to be done. But again, it's going to be related to what the situation is and where.
Okay.
Can I add to that just a little
Yes.
bit? So the city has invested in Genesis Protect, which is the countywide evacuation program, which we share readily throughout the community about Know Your Zone. That gives evacuation direction for specific areas when we do manage those evacuations in that notification. It doesn't, at this point, tell you the direct road to take. That's something that we're working on as part of the city's general plan update, which you'll be seeing in a few months before council, is the safety element. The safety element is being renewed, and one of the key points in this revision of the safety element that we're developing is that network of main arterial roads that will serve as evacuation directions for our various areas of the city that we have to evacuate. But the important point to make is in the messaging that we shared out, all of the messaging on evacuations, because remember, before this was a wind event with power safety shutoffs, the fire department was trying to educate people on what to do in the case of an emergency for an evacuation. So we shared about how to knowing your zone, about download these apps for fire and evacuation information. We shared about what to do for large animal evacuations, the steps, the links, everything. That was all shared out through our social media as well. But the next steps is developing that citywide evacuation plan, which will be in the safety element as part of the general plan amendment.
Well, if you stick around to the end of the meeting, you're going to be interested in what I'm going to, for future agendize. So if you're going to be around, you're going to hear what my suggestion is. My last question is, Chief, who's the lead commander for this type of outage, power and traffic situation? Who's the commander that is on the ground?
Well, in a situation like this, we have our EOC activation, so all emergency is managed through the EOC. We don't have a direct incident commander because, it's just through the EOC director. So it was really a unified command between all of the departments that were involved. We were making decisions as a joint body on, how to respond to these situations as they popped up.
Okay, thank you. And then my last comment, City Manager Clifton, I think in one of our Murrieta magazines, I think it would be wise for us to address this, and just in case people did miss the communication of where they're to call, where they're to go, maybe, 12 steps in case of an emergency like this. It's just another layer of communication for our residents. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my comments and questions.
Thank you, Councilwoman Stone. Councilman Lavelle.
Thank you much, Mayor. I was on the calls with SoCal Edison a couple nights a week, and I don't know who, I think it was Councilwoman DeForest mentioned, it was atrocious. The level of incompetency was, I've never seen anything like it on the answers they did not have. And that just led me to a place that they never will have answers, that you guys did much better. So your social media, all of your notices, your suggestions, I thought you're already light years ahead of them. I don't have faith in them, so I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I think it was a great foot forward for the community on what things we could control, because there aren't many in this particular situation, as we all have experienced. The generators for the traffic lights, that's great news that you can still buy generators in the state. Are they gas powered?
We're actually buying the dual powered, whether propane or gasoline.
Okay.
And they're available in one day.
Really?
Yes.
Because, I mean, there's a while you could not buy a generator. I know you can't buy lawnmowers anymore, so.
I think the state wants to outlaw the gas generators by 2027.
There you go. That's the state for you. The batteries for the situations that require the swapping out of the batteries, I think Chief Malloy mentioned they're essentially a car battery. It's a lead acid battery. I have a UTV that came with 10 lead acid batteries. They're about 800 pounds altogether. The amp hours rating of those 10 batteries it's 100 amp hours. The one I replaced it with, which is lithium, weighed about 20% of those 8 batteries and had a little bit longer amp hour rating. So if we are buying new batteries or fixing antiquated systems that we have in the city, I would recommend the lithium swap out. It would be easier for the staff to replace. They're gonna last longer. They're gonna have more charge cycles. So the technology is out there. So if we have those, that may help mitigate some of those problems in the future, because as you mentioned before, this will happen again. And the meat, comment about the freezer truck. I don't know if I do that, but I know we have a great fire department that knows how to barbecue. So, I mean, one post from the social media of the police station might do the trick. That's all. I just want to thank everyone.
And they just got a new little thing donated too, that they do, what is it?
A spoon?
What did you get donated for them to cook on?
PD got it.
I haven't seen it. PD got it.
Oh, PD.
Yes, we got a flat top. New flat
I'm gonna have to come over there.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You had another question?
I just had one other question. Thank you, Madam Mayor. You talked about Genesis. Does that also have the capability of pushing out text to the community? Because if we can't reach them on social media, like, there's a lot of people.
It does to a degree. So a separate part of Genesis is the wireless emergency alert system. And we do have the ability to do tower-based text messaging, reverse 911 out of that system. It's the same system that notified all of LA County that they had to evacuate the entire county. I won't say tricky to use because there is a process, but you have to be very careful with how you use that system, because you have to sign an agreement of how you will use it, what you will message. We would have to look really closely at community-based messaging and if that would be a use of that system.
All right, just an idea to get the message out to our constituents. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I just had a couple of things I wanted to ask. When did Edison notify you of what was coming down the pipe? Did you get the same notifications that our residents had received? Did you get something sooner?
We, as a municipality, started receiving information on the 3rd that there was the possibility with this wind event to do public safety power shutoff. So we received that advance notification that this could be happening. Then we receive a different email probably than the public does. It is, as a public member, I also get emails in my personal account. But the work emails that we get, it's few select people in the city that get these. It gives you notification that your power may be shut off, when the power is shut off. And those are communicated on the same timeline as they are to the people that are registered within those circuits. So we do not get a great advance notice. We do have a public safety portal that we get to log into that has a little more granular view that they don't want the public having access to, of how many people are on that circuit and some of the information I shared up here specifically. But what we get notified of is a great example. They tell us a circuit is being shut off. All we get is the Garboni circuit is shut off. I think that's how you pronounce it. Mm-hmm. That's the one up along Clinton Keith Boulevard. What we don't have is the Garboni circuit, which is Clinton Keith Boulevard. We have to then go to a map. And we have been working with our IT department to build a web map. So we have, when that comes in, we know exactly which circuit we're looking at. We don't have to go seek references to find out when it was. But that's a long answer to your short question of we do not get any advance notice on what's happening.
We answered my second question, so thank you so much for that. It came to my knowledge from a lot of people that they did not know what to do with the blacked out signal. Did not know what to do. And they were afraid to stop because if the people behind them didn't see any lights and they were gonna, afraid they were gonna get plowed into. I think it might be a good social media public service to send something out on how to and what the rules are when we have these kind of outages for blacked out signals. Because really and truly, if they don't know what to do, if they do the wrong thing, it could cause a major problem. And if they don't do anything, it may cause a major problem. So that's just a suggestion that I think that might be helpful since we are pushing stuff out. The more we can educate them, the safer our community can be.
Mayor Warren, I do believe that either PD or Christina put out exactly that message about how to handle a dark signal.
Okay, I did not see it, so that's why, good. Now that it's.
We did, but when someone sees something on social media, I mean, it takes them like 7 times to remember it. So it's always good to put more information out there.
Maybe send it back out again. And how long does it take to replace those batteries?
Our traffic technician and a couple of public works maintenance workers got the battery backups changed in intersection in about 1 hour per intersection. Wow. It's intensive. Jerry Eldridge did a lot of heavy lifting that day going forward. So kudos to him.
That's a lot of, takes a lot of time to do that. For food for thought, I'm hoping that down the road we can do a workshop on the EOC training and have a real plan in action so that we know, staff knows, and our public knows what to do in these situations. I'm hoping that will come to fruition soon. Thank you. Are there any more questions from staff, from council? Thank you so much.
And Mayor, Council, just to wrap up, we started our after action process today and had a long spreadsheet of items, some of which we've already talked about that result from reviewing the incident after the fact, improvements that we want to make, et cetera. Certainly one of those is to continue to engage council in the broader emergency management kind of world, the plans that we have, the preparation we do, and how we manage incidents when they occur. So there will be more to come there. And lastly, want to not only thank some of our directors that served important roles kind of helping oversee this incident, but the inspectors that were out looking at intersections, changing batteries, sometimes very late in the or almost early morning, past midnight, our patrol officers that were taking additional time to make sure they drove those intersections, that we were collecting data on any accidents so that we could ensure that we were overseeing the health and safety related issues. We had people at front counters receiving calls. They didn't always know exactly how to answer those calls, and so we were in real time making those kind of adjustments. Our emergency management coordinator that put in a ton of work to keep all of this organized and start our after action process. I did make a note on our library hours, but was also really impressed that not only did we stand up those facilities, but it was the determination of some of our staff at those facilities that said, we've got some people that are still here using these facilities, so we're just going to stay open for another couple of hours, and then extended hours the next day. And of course, our PIOs that include not just Christina, but PIOs also serving in PD and fire that worked really well together to boost each other's posts and get the information out. So I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but the point is there are a lot of people that play roles both in the normal course of business and after hours. We've got some really good notes on ways we can do better next time. So we'll be happy to report some of those in a future meeting. And then we do have two more quick reports. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about, we had anticipated pretty significant impacts from the Winchester on-ramp closure in Temecula. Wanted to get a quick report on that, and then following that, we'll have Christina end on a high note with some community news. So.
Thank you. Reporting on the Winchester ramp closure, part of the French Valley Phase 2 project in Temecula. I wish I had better news. We did traffic counts on the 2 weeks before the closure, and also did it again this past week. There's been a 32% increase in traffic on Jackson Avenue and a 20% increase in traffic on Jefferson Avenue. We had a discussion, we reached out to Temecula this morning, asked them what they had any impacts down on their side. Well, no, we're not getting any increased traffic at Rancho California Road. We said, well, of course not. We didn't expect you would. And they said the 15 is actually working better with no people getting on at Winchester Road. We said, again, understandable. But what about us up here on Hot Springs Road? I actually drove it last Thursday, took my wife to an appointment right at Yanez and Winchester. Got on my phone, said, what's the quickest way to get home? It said you can get on to the go down to Overland, come back around and get on a loop ramp. Or you can just go up Jackson and get onto the 215 at Hot Springs Road. I tried that. I sat through approximately 3 lights trying to make that left-hand turn from Jackson onto Hot Springs westbound. Finally made that, and instead of getting on the 215 northbound, I just went up to Hancock because I actually live off Clinton Keith in the Greer Road area, south of that. But it was impactful. It was a lot of people that are now becoming very dangerous drivers because they all kind of scream up to you on the left-hand side and then cut over to get on the 215 ramp. And the 215 was backed up all the way to the merge. So we're going to have a follow-up discussion with Temecula again this week. I've also talked with Brian Stevenson about increasing the green time for that left turn arrow northbound Jackson to westbound Hot Springs to allow that to cycle a little bit better. But again, our synchronization Hot Springs Road is getting people off the freeway. So it's actually leading away from the 215, whereas now we're trying to get an increasing amount of people to the freeway. So we're going to have to work with that in terms of trying to deal with our traffic. But you know, the response from Temecula was, well, it's part of the big project, just kind of deal with it. So we're not real happy with that response. We're going to be working with their engineering department down there and try to see what we can do to improve that. Again, we'll work on traffic signal timing on Hot Springs to try to manipulate that as best we can to increase green times and continue to monitor the traffic. But yeah, 32% increase is pretty much what we expected was coming, and it came. So sorry for that update.
Mr. Malin, can you remind us approximately how long that's going to be closed?
It's a month for each ramp, so it should be completed sometime in the end of February if things go to per schedule. They did say that they actually worked on Martin Luther King Day. They're working on Saturdays. Their only day off is on Sundays, so they are working some long hours,
So the
fortunately.
message to our residents is plan on extra time.
Avoid that area if at all possible.
Thank you.
Okay, well, my update, we won't talk about weather because I think that's also a sad note, and we won't talk about traffic. So what's going on in Murrieta? Well, we have Coffee with the City coming up, and that will be on the 4th Tuesday. So next week at 8:30. Normally, it's at our Murrieta Innovation Center, but that will soon be going under renovation. So it is going to be at the Murrieta Hot Springs Resort. So it's going to be there at the theater, and the topic for next week will be PD. So PD will be doing a presentation, and I believe Chief Malloy might be coming. No? All right. Just for questions, but but the topic will be PD, so they'll be talking about e-bikes and their canine program as well as their drone program. And my last slide, as always, if you guys want to connect with us, murrietaca.gov/connect. And there are a couple jobs on there. So if you are looking for a job with the city of Murrieta, you can also go to murrietaca.gov/jobs. And that is all I have.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate all your time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my updates.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to governing body commission board reports. This is for City Council to provide a brief report on conferences, seminars, and committees, and/or board meeting attendance. Please remember that you should not exceed more than 3 minutes. If you are going over, complete your thought and stop. At this time, we will start with Dr. Lisa DeForest.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I attended the Southwest Higher Education Coalition meeting, where I was chairman, and then I attended a Zoom call with Southwest Higher Education. We discussed with our partner, which is Mount San Jacinto, and Cal State San Marcos. We discussed where we're moving on in the future and how the expansion is going. If you'd like to reach me, as always, via email, and also for fast response, you can send me a text. That is my cell. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions. Thank you so very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Dr. DeForest. Councilmember Stone.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Regional Conservation Authority, known as RCA, and they gave us a recap of 2024. They've acquired 21 parcels and added 2,313 acres to their assemblage. So they're now at 83% of the 500,000 acre goal, which is pretty impressive, which leaves 84,900 acres to go. So at 2,300 a year, it might be a bit. But they're working on funding to increase that number. But 83% of 500,000 acres, I mean, that's impressive. Along with my colleague, Councilmember Lisa Forrest, we interviewed 14 candidates for various commission openings, all in one day. A very, very long day. We started at 10? 10, because I don't like to get up early, and we ended up around 6. So it was a very long day. Was it 6:30? Yes. Anyhow, the thing that I was impressed by is we got a lot of good quality candidates, which you'll see later tonight. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. I have done nothing since last year.
I don't know how to respond to that. I will go on to mine. On December the 18th, I attended the Transportation Now Holiday Luncheon, and where all of the T-Now regional committees came together and reported on what was going on within the region. Also, we had a full Riverside Transportation Agency regular commission meeting on December 19th, and we welcome in our new chair, Steve Hemingway of Riverside. Vice chair is Jim Steiner of Corona, and second vice chair was myself from Murrieta. So I'm very proud to serve. Thank you. On starting the year off right away, we had the RCTC commission meeting. There is an opportunity for us to go out and call for projects for bicycle pedestrian facility programs, bike lanes, sidewalks, ADA curbing. And I turned that over to Bob Mailing in our Public Works, and hopefully we'll get a good project out of that. Maybe we can get some more funds. The 1591 express lanes, this was brought up during the meeting, and we have asked the consultant who runs the boards to put messages up to let you know what it's going to cost for you to save a minute, what it's going to cost for you to save 5 minutes if you decide to take the express lanes. That information has never been given to the consumer, so they're working on getting that accomplished so that you can make an absolute decision on whether you want to spend the money and save a minute, or you want to spend the money and save more time, or you just don't want to spend the money. So we're trying to get information out to the public so you can make informed decisions with real information. That concludes my report. All right, the next on the agenda is our public comments. Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any person may address the governing bodies on any subject pertaining to city business. Normally, no action may be considered or taken by the governing bodies on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Request for more time must be made to the city clerk with timing limited to a maximum of 6 minutes. John Perry.
Well, good evening. I'm John Perry. I'm a new resident to Murrieta. Been here since 23. Retired Navy veteran of 24 years. And I'm here to talk about a water issue that I'm having on my property. I've had pretty much everybody come out there. I bought the house in September of 23. And it was undisclosed to me during the process of buying the house that there was a water issue at the house with water basically under the house. So my house like sits on a lake, and the other houses to the west of me are experiencing the same issue. I've had so many people out there to come and look at it. There's not a determination of where it's coming from. I know it's not from me. Water district has been out there, it's not theirs, but there's water. So my concern is my house falling into a sinkhole and killing my family. So I'm here to meet with you guys to try to find a resolution to our problem. Few $100,000 into this home, and I'm not trying to have it fall in a hole. There's a lot of erosion. The water runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The concrete of my house has been degraded very badly due to the erosion, the effervescence, and everything that's coming through the ground. There's cracks in the walls, so I have the wall between my garage and my house. Every now and again, that water, the wall is wet. So that means the water is wicking up from the ground through the wall. And I got concerns with mold. I got concerns with mosquito infestations. I'm sorry, I'm a little unprepared because this is kind of the last minute thing for me tonight. But just, you name it, I have it. I would have had slideshow for you or pictures or something. You really need to come out and take a look to get an understanding of what I'm going through with this property. You know, this was supposed to be my last move, okay? And to get some sort of resolution on this, on is it fixable? Is it not fixable? You know, there was some discussion about putting a drain in front of the house, $100,000 project to put a drain in front of the house. But that doesn't fix the issue. That just, it's a Band-Aid, but the water still flows. Okay, the sidewalks are cracked. It's a slip hazard for people. I have elderly people that walk in my neighborhood. They can't walk across my sidewalk because it's a slip hazard. First person they sue is me, okay? And we know how hard it is to get homeowners insurance nowadays. So that's why I'm here. I would have pictures. I've got pictures on my phone that you can see, but the mosquito infestation is just ridiculous. My wife's highly allergic to mosquitoes. She can't go back and enjoy our backyard during warm months because she gets eaten alive. I have a special needs daughter that has a brain issue. You know, when are we gonna wake up in a sinkhole? Have you ever seen any videos on what undermining looks like with a house, constant running water? Thank you for your time.
No, I appreciate it. If you could meet out in the lobby with Mr. Mailing.
We've met a number of times.
Okay, all right.
We've talked a number of times about it. I've met with Jeff Lyle. I've met with people from Wildemar because my property behind me is Wildemar.
Well, City Manager, could we follow up with him, please?
Yeah, it sounds like a particularly challenging issue that I would need to confer with staff to see what we've determined and see if there's anything else we can do to help.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I interject, please? Sure. We had a resident come forward, I would believe about a year and a half ago, and through their findings, it's a natural progression of the water that is coming up. So what I would recommend is that obviously you would have a claim against your realtor, and I would probably hire an attorney, but that's your choice. But what the findings were, it was a natural spring. Mr. Mailing can probably educate you a little bit more about that natural water that was coming up from the earth.
From the earth.
And that leads me to the fact that if it is water, who owns the water rights to the property? Or who owns the water rights in the city? I don't own them.
It's not water rights by any means. It's a natural progression.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll, I'll have our city manager talk with staff, and then we'll have someone contact you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
So much.
Brian Trumbaugh.
How is everybody?
Good.
So this is actually the first time that I've been to the Murrieta City Council meeting. I actually was a resident here for, I'm guessing, about 10 years or something. But what a great show that was with the young children, at the very beginning of our meeting tonight. I currently don't live in Murrieta. You know, what I can say is that those children, they deserve a solid future. As that gentleman right there, that's a tough pill to swallow. You know, I'm a construction guy. I'm an electrical contractor, and I understand how situations like that can happen, and we don't want that to occur. But these kids, they need to have a solid foundation. You know, the woman who did the amazing invocation, talking about what occurred yesterday. The bringing in of our new president. I mean, I got to see a gentleman take an oath tonight. You know, I could talk all night about battery and battery chemistries. You guys could probably learn a lot from me on that. But we need to learn from each other. And really what I'm recognizing is that the fruits of a lot of this, I'm gonna call it the system, okay? It's producing sour fruits, okay? And this goes, everybody in this room should be able to admit that there are things that they would love to see improved. Okay, this has got nothing to do with partisan politics. I mean, I'm taught to not put my faith in men. And a lot of people forget that, okay? But what I can say is that America needs to set an example. Most people don't even realize that we were never supposed to vote for elect a president. That was not our job. This is a Republican form of government, California Republic. What happens in a republic? You've got essentially more responsibility by the citizenry. And government is small, responsibility is high. You guys all know this, okay? A lot of those people, I understand they came in here with their young children. But I've seen this over the course of the last 3 or 4 years speaking at council meetings. You know, they're there for the proclamations and they're gone. And I'm not an engaged citizen. As much, I mean, I have to work for a living, okay? We need to have a system where people can be engaged. I mean, talking about the social media, I mean, social media nowadays with these bot accounts, I mean, there's no checks and balances with that either. America needs to change its ways. I'm not coming at you guys. I appreciated the opportunity. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Marshall Hamilton.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Marshall Hamilton. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Safe Family Justice Centers. Joining me tonight, I have Aiko Nicole, our Temecula Site Supervisor, and then Corporal Matt Mazingo from the Murrieta Police Department. Both work closely with our Police Activities League, or our PAL program. We're here to celebrate National Mentoring Month. So January reflects National Mentoring Month, and we wanted to highlight the transformative impact of our mentorship through PAL. The PAL program has been a cornerstone of youth mentorship here in the Valley for 20 years. What makes this especially significant for Murrieta is that Murrieta Police Department joined us for the last 18 years. So laying the foundation for what's now Riverside County PAL. Today, this program continues to thrive, connecting youth ages 5 to 17 with caring mentors who inspire, guide, and celebrate their growth at no cost to them or their families. Murrieta Police Department officers Sanchez, Jimenez, Amoy, and Cooney regularly attend our program. PAL is more than just a mentorship. It's exposure, opportunity, and access. Through the program, youth have visited local museums, attractions, sporting events. We went to Sacramento, even sending officers with our youth to DC. These experiences introduce young people to new possibilities and broaden their understanding of the world and their place in it. But there's still a critical need for mentorship. Roughly 1 in 3 young people grow up without a mentor, a gap that leaves millions without supportive adults to encourage their potential or guide them through life's challenges. This mentoring gap highlights the urgent need for programs like PAL, and the impact of closing this gap is profound. Research shows that mentored youth are 55% more likely to enroll in college, 78% more likely to volunteer in their communities, 46% less likely to use drugs, 52% less likely to skip a day of school, and 81% more likely to participate in extracurricular activities. Additionally, 60% of young adults live within 10 miles of where they grew up. 8 in 10 stay within 100 miles. Over 23% of the youth we serve reside in the city of Murrieta. This means that the investments we make in mentoring youth locally will have a lasting and direct impact on our community for generations to come. These numbers are more than just statistics. They're a testament to the power of mentorship. PAL transforms lives, turning young people into leaders and agents of change in their community. As we celebrate National Mentoring Month, I invite you to reflect on the legacy of PAL, some of the pictures we have here from the officers being involved in our program, and just the incredible difference that's made over the past 20 years. And together we can continue to bridge the gap, the mentoring gap, and build a brighter future for youth in our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is a wonderful program.
Thank you.
Roberta Borglum.
Hi, I'm Robbie Borglum. Sorry I'm a little slow. I'm recovering from a stroke. I'm here because of a concern that I've had where I live I've lived at Amanda Park for 3 years. After a few months of living there, I was deeply concerned about the fact that no recycle program, no composting program was in place there. It's been an issue that's been close to my heart for decades for us to have, for communities to come together and have these programs in place. And it was heartbreaking to me that we didn't have that at Amanda Park, but I waited a few months to address that issue with the management, and they just kind of brushed me aside. So I contacted Waste Management, and also, anyway, I contacted them directly, and they said, oh, well, the management has turned down having any recycle or composting bins in the community. And I was like, how can that be? I thought it was the law that that the community has to provide those services. And so I guess I got a name for somebody at the city level. I think it was Kristen Crane that I talked to. And we talked several times, and she was, and I don't know, I guess she was trying to get something happening, and nothing was forthcoming. And after several months at resident meetings bringing up the subject, she said, well, our manager said that it was in progress and something would happen the next year. So I waited till January and still nothing was happening. And I finally called, I guess when I talked to the manager at Amanda Park, she said, oh, well, I'm working on it. And at the beginning of the next year, we had one green bin and one recycle bin, individual property size, in one of the 12 collection sites on the grounds. So I have since then combined with another woman who's not able to be here tonight, and she tried to arrange a program to have the city come and make a presentation, but the management there said they could not support anybody having an outside speaker there for any reason, and referred us to the social worker who managed to get that program happening. And to this day, we have none of any of those, either of those programs.
Okay, I will have our Assistant City Manager, Kristen Crane, will you discuss out in the lobby what you could do to facilitate this for her? Thank you. Madam City Clerk, is there any more public comment?
I apologize. Yes, that concludes public comments.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. We have items on this consent calendar are considered routine and may be enacted by one motion and vote. There will be no discussion of these items unless specific items are removed from the consent calendar for separate motions. Are there any requests from the City Council to pull any consent calendar items for discussion or abstain from voting? Hearing none? Now is the time. Yeah, now.
Hold on, I gotta find my notes. Okay, Madam City Manager, Mayor, I'm recusing myself from item number 6 as I own a property within 1,000 feet of the item. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stone. Madam City Clerk, are there any members of the public requesting to speak on a consent calendar item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Alicia Alban.
So I have had the pleasure of owning and managing Juniper Trails for about the last 7 years, and not without some amazing folks that are here with me today. We are here tonight to say we are so grateful for the opportunity Murrieta has afforded us through the years. And I just wanted to take this moment to let you all know that I speak for so many families when I say Juniper Trails has been a big blessing in so many lives. It's a place where kids come after school not only to take horseback riding lessons, but to also work to afford their passion and learn how to be accountable, confident, and self-reliant. Where families don't have to be wealthy to afford a horse, because at Juniper Trails, hard work and community pays off. Where kids and people are lifted up and learn how valuable consistency, community, and hard work is, who then pay it forward and also make a positive impact in others' lives and the lives of so many horses, as we are dedicated to improving both equine and human welfare and the quality of life by building emotional confidence, physical conditioning through equine education, ranch life, and fellowship with each other. Again, we thank you so much for the opportunity and hope you all consider accepting our invitation and gratitude and come experience for yourselves and your families just how amazing it all is. So I get a little emotional. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any additional comments?
That concludes public
Thank
comment.
you. Can I please have a motion and a second? Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0, noting the recusal of Councilmember Stone on item number 6.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to a discussion item. We're going to start with item number 11, appointment of city commissioners. City Clerk, may we please have a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So today we're here, appointment of city commissions and committees. There are only commissions that you will be appointing to, okay? And so I'm going to give you just a little bit of background, and my understanding is then the subcommittee's going to make a small presentation, and then we're going to move forward from that. We currently have the commissions and committees listed there on the slide for you. It's library, parks and rec, planning, traffic, and we have a transactions and use tax citizens oversight committee, but there aren't any vacancies. They're not up at this time, so we won't be discussing that. So, you know, with these 5 committees, they're really here to, they're advisory commissions to this body, the city council, and I'm gonna give you the list of who they are and what they do. But before we get into that, I want to just share with you what my office has done for some outreach. This happens. It coincides with the election. They're all staggered, the terms of the various commissioners. And so what my office did was we did an informational session that we held here on a Saturday. That was very helpful to where we were trying to recruit. We have attended at market nights, social media outreach, which we've done, and thank you to our PIO, Christina Davies. We've posted a notice of scheduled and any unscheduled vacancies. We did that on the city's website, the standard stuff, and yes, I even advertised it in the newspaper. Individuals who have an application on file with my office, if they're within the 2-year time frame, they were all contacted personally from my staff, and they were reached out to. We had a total of about 18 active applicants who are interested. Unfortunately, several of them dropped out before the committee. I'd say about five to six of them withdrew before they got to the subcommittee. But the subcommittee nevertheless still had plenty to interview. So I'm just going to touch on this is the initial recommendation. So there are going to be 2 recommendations. The first is to appoint based off of subcommittee recommendations. The second recommendation is actually, it's something that is your policy. It's Council Policy 100-7. And what it says is that The subcommittee is to make recommendations for final interviews from the full body of the council. And so that's something that you will be doing with Planning Commission applicants only. I do want to let you know that all applicants, whether they were chosen or not, were invited to come attend today, and they were given the option to make a public comment or just sit and observe. So some of them have done that. But all 5 applicants for Planning Commission are here in attendance. I must say that the subcommittee actually consists of Council Members DeForest and Councilmember Holliday. And they did have a long day, and they even stayed extra, and it was pretty dark out by the time they left, so thank you for that. And so before we move on to the actual recommendation, we're going to touch each one, and the first one is a library advisory. They provide community perspective and support library staff on policies, and they are an advisory commission to, of course, the City Council. The subcommittee, after having interviews, has recommended Laverne Davis and Nicole Davis. They are not related. They just happen to have the same last name. I know. Yeah. The second, and I am going to go quickly. You all know these bodies, and so it's just a refresher of what they do, but it's really about the recommended action. So the second one we're going to talk about is the Parks and Rec Commission, otherwise known as the Fun Commission. They are in advisory capacity, all matters pertaining to Community Services District. They work very closely with Brian Ambrose, our Community Services Director, and who has been recommended is Paul Parker, who is an incumbent, Whitney Molan, and Brian Glassman is an alternate 1. Before we go on to alternates, I do want to say that in talking to the subcommittee, they really are looking for the alternates to be a tad more engaged and more informed. And so the subcommittee has asked that I reach out and work with the alternates and providing them enough information to where if an unscheduled vacancy occurs, they can kind of jump in at any time and know the ongoings of each commission. And so that is something that I did hear from the subcommittee, and that we will certainly do that. The next one is Traffic Commission, not known as the Funnest Commission. They're there to talk about traffic issues, right? And existing and proposed city policies. And so that's something that you all have been familiar with, specifically this last year. And so a recommendation has been for Ms. Kathy Bierce, James Chavez, and then Maria Robinson is recommended as the first alternate. And so those are the commissions that the subcommittee has recommended for appointment. And so we are going to move on to the second recommendation, and that comes with the Planning Commission. But before we do that, I do want to ask the mayor, may I ask, is there any questions from this council regarding anything regarding the commissions we just discussed?
Council, any? Seeing none.
Great. And so the next recommendation, as I mentioned, it's actually, instead of just appoint, it's interview and appoint as recommended by the ad hoc subcommittee. These are the recommended folks, but I would like to note that the Planning Commission, they focus on physical environment within the city. I'm pulling that straight from the policy. Commission conducts public hearings, makes decisions and recommendations about development on behalf of the City Council. Planning Commission also makes recommendations on general plan amendments, specific plans, and zone changes. It also has a little extra qualification versus, different than just residing and being a registered voter. Your policy states that participating in the Planning Commission requires applicants to know, appreciate, and comprehend public issues and concerns related to the city as expected of a person who has resided in the city for at least 3 years. And so that's really the only guidance that the policy gives the subcommittee and this council. And so with that, I'm gonna let you know that all 5 applicants are here. They will be interviewed by this council if that's something you choose to do. Before you are the current recommendations, Thomas Beamish, Keelan McCullough, and John Rose. And if that is okay with you, Madam Mayor, I would like to submit it over to the subcommittee for them to issue their report.
Yes, if I could please have a report from Councilmember Holliday and Dr. Lisa DeForest.
I'll start, and Ron, if you want to jump in as well. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all. We appreciate you taking your time and your energy, and especially for you guys to be here tonight. So thank you all for being here. It was an outstanding group of individuals. We were amazed. Our first 6, we were like, oh goodness, what are we going to do from here? And it was just fantastic the whole time through. And it was a pleasure to stay till 6:30 to hear even our very last one. So thank you all for taking your time once again. So Ron and I, we were the subcommittee, and we met with all the candidates for an in-depth interview, which lasted approximately 20 to 30 minutes with each candidate. We used objective set of standards, including asking each candidate the same question, giving each candidate the ample opportunity to answer the questions thoroughly. We selected the most qualified candidate as an unbiased and fair procedure on the basis of their answers that evening. We did a thorough evaluation of every candidate to be fair and transparent to everyone. Candidates were asked to add anything they would like to add, or if they'd like to elaborate on anything at the end of the questions. And this is Ron and I's second time for doing this committee. So this process has been used in the past to provide transparency and fairness to all the candidates. And the questions were about community involvement, understanding of the commission, and their qualifications, et cetera. While we reviewed the candidates, Ron and I interviewed them by ourselves, and then we asked the city clerk to come in, and she was present as our neutral party to maintain transparency and accountability. Our clerk walked us through each position, and we went candidate by candidate with her. In conclusion, we chose Tom Beamish, who currently serves as an alternate. He has attended most planning commission meetings per his statement, as well as attending many council meetings. He showed his overall engagement and understanding of the role of planning commission. He also was a past city council member and planning commissioner. Keelan McCulloch applied for traffic commission and planning commission in the past, and is engaged in the community by coaching Pop Warner football, local fundraising for Pop Warner. He is also a lieutenant for Southgate Police Department. He stated his position allows him more flexibility, and he will have no conflict serving on the commission. Because Ron and I questioned him about the traffic commission and his resignation. He did elaborate on that. It was COVID, and it was difficult getting back to those meetings. He is also a Marine veteran who ran for city council in 2016. He was clear on his position of the general plan and how he is to serve as a commissioner, and he discussed with us and was very aware of his limitations, and he knew he must follow specific and general plan for the council. John Rose, as our alternate. He's been a Murrieta resident a long time. He spoke about his work as a senior manager in the U.S. Accountability Office. He was versed and looked at programs. He had a lot of understanding of limits of government and the laws of implementation of government. He also was a teacher of government for over 15 years. He was current on city's long-range developmental goals and very open to open dialogue with staff. And I'll turn it over to my fellow commissioner.
Thank you. I believe Keelan works for San Diego Police Department. Is that correct? Yes.
Oops, sorry.
I just wanted to correct that.
How did I put you in Southgate?
I don't know. San Diego's much better.
Yes,
Don't
sorry,
tell Southgate I
yes.
said that. To everyone that applied, regardless of the outcome today, I would encourage you to continue to participate in whether it's a Murrieta commissioner or committee or Chamber of Commerce or some other nonprofit involved in the city. All of you were worthwhile candidates, and while we only had so many positions, I would encourage you to stay involved, because as I say in a lot of my emails when residents send an email and have questions, active and engaged residents is what make Murrieta the best it can be. So I thank you for applying and encourage you to continue regardless of the outcome today. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Ron.
That concludes that. Now, we would like to go into the interview process, but I'd like to bring it back to council to discuss at this time. Questions, discussion? Yes.
If it was mentioned there was 5, I think, total. We've gotten updates on 3 and names on 3. Can we get a little description on the other 2 and names?
Yeah, absolutely. I can leave that to the subcommittee if I may.
Well, I think the first question is, are we going to interview all of the Planning Commission applicants? I would say.
I just wanted to identify them, that they were here.
So it's Mr. Michael DeSena.
And Sarah, right?
Yes, that's correct. And I apologize. I don't think I can say the.
Halverson Saha.
Halverson, yes.
I don't know why I remembered your name. I don't remember my own name. I'd like to make a suggestion to the mayor if we could do the other commissions first and do planning last.
Sure.
And then,
Do we have a consensus for that? Do you want to do that?
since we're not interviewing the other candidates necessarily.
All right, so we'll go ahead and vote on those.
We'll take public comment.
Okay, take public
Yes,
comment
ma'am.
first, and then, do I have any public comment on the, all other commissions except for planning? Is there any public comment?
Laverne Davis.
Madam Mayor and the other council members, my name is Laverne Davis, and as you know, I've been recommended to be a library commissioner. I want to thank you for this opportunity to serve my community, and I will do everything in my possible area to make certain that we do the responsibilities that are expected of us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Davis. Any more public comments?
Whitney Fernandez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, esteemed council members. I guess the first order of business is that we have to change my name. After 10 years of being married, I finally took my husband's last name, so it is Fernandez. But I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity. I have served on the Parks and Rec Commission as alternate 2 for the past 2 years, and I would agree with this gentlelady's comments that it is important to be at those meetings as an alternate. And as a suggestion, I would say if there is an alternate attending the meetings, then maybe they get bumped up in the line. I attended almost all of the Parks and Recs meetings, and Leah and Brian can tell you I was the only one sitting out there. So Parks and Recs is near and dear to my heart. I have 3 young boys who play Pop Warner football, who ride their bikes and electric bikes, which I'm sure the police love. And they love being outside, they love being outdoors, and I would love to be a part of making this city and helping our young community members who may not have a voice, who may not know to call the city and request things like pickleball courts. But I would love to be that voice for those individuals, for those constituents, because we just had some amazing stats read about the young people in our communities that, you know, many of them end up staying here. I would love to just foster the young people in our community through the Parks and Recs Commission by working with you all and working with the city to really, you know, build these young people up, because I feel like a lot of times they get left behind. So there's not a whole lot, especially for that adolescent group that's out of the playground stage and moving into maybe bike parks and pump tracks and updated skate parks stage. Maybe we'll get them out of that Ralph's parking lot off of Washington.
There you go.
Right? Okay. But thank you all for your consideration. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
That concludes public comments for non-planning commission.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the council for discussion. See done?
I would
Anyone like
make
to make a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the recommendation from the subcommittee for all the commissions except for the Planning Commission.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm going to bring it back one more time. Is there any more discussion before we vote? Seeing none, please vote.
Yeah, it was working. She's quick.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Motion carries unanimously 5-0 to approve the non-planning commission appointments recommended by the subcommittee.
Thank you. We're going to move on now to the planning applicants. I'd like to bring it back to the council and see what your pleasure is. Do you want to interview, or do you want to waive the policy and move forward?
If I may, before we interview, can we get a brief description on the other two? Because the three recommendations were talked about.
There,
we have that?
Did you not look at the applicants that were part of the attachments in your package?
Are you questioning me?
Yes. That information was available to you as of Thursday.
Okay, and that was public record too?
It was.
Okay, thank you.
But
I may have read it, just forgot.
Yeah. Or not. Okay.
My suggestion would be, if the council agrees, is to do public comment first and then go to the interviews.
Okay. Are you ready to go to that? We'll move forward with public comments. Madam City Clerk?
Vijay Raghavan.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, all the council members. My name is Vijay Raghavan. I live off of Murrieta Hot Springs. Thank you for the opportunity today for me to speak, especially as we discuss the future of our community, especially in selecting who needs to be in the Planning Commission. I'm here in support of Sarah Hofferson. I've known Sarah for many years. It's essential we elect someone like Sarah who approaches each decision in a thoughtful manner, considers all viewpoints, remain very focused on what's best for our residents. We are at crossroads where growth and tradition intersect. The business will bring jobs, infrastructure, new services, but we must not lose sight of the unique qualities that make our community special. Sarah upholds those values, preserving the heart and soul of what makes this town very special. We heard from these beautiful kids today. America, we are so proud to call you our home. That was a diverse group of kids. We are a diverse community, and diversity is one of our greatest strengths. The person sitting on this planning commission should understand the needs of every resident from all backgrounds. Knowing Sarah, knowing her family, where she comes from personally, and also knowing Sarah professionally, being in healthcare, she understands better than anyone that diversity and culture is important. She understands the need of every resident. So I strongly encourage you to consider Sarah. She'll be a great liaison and effective communicator between the resident and the council. She's everybody has their own thoughts and opinions, but she is very objective in her thought process, and she's very dedicated and hard worker. She has a servant's heart. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Brian Horiver.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for listening to me speak today. My name is Brian Horner. I'm speaking to endorse Sarah Hofferson for City Public City Planning Commissioner. I'm a recent college graduate from UC Riverside's College of Humanities, where I currently assist 2 research groups through their political science department, one of which is dedicated to the rehabilitation of incarcerated individuals at the Norco facility. I've known Sarah Hofferson for several years now. Throughout this time, I have had the honor of witnessing her as an individual who is self-motivated, dedicated to her community. She consistently puts the needs of others above her own and is committed to preserving community-centric values. I have so much gratitude to be able to call her a friend and mentor. I endorse her position for City Planning Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nick Pardue.
Madam Mayor, we need to raise this a little bit. City Council, it's just a pleasure to see you guys at work, honestly, to see you on a personal level and then see what a well-run meeting this is. As a school board member, it's been a pleasure to work with you guys. This is a very different vibe. I'm here to speak on behalf of Sarah Halverson. She is a great advocate for our kids and our schools and our community. And I think it's such a blessing that we have so many great individuals willing to step up and be part of our community to help with this planning commission. So I think the dilemma that we have of having so many people is actually just a huge blessing. Sarah's just been a great advocate and ally, stays very involved, as you can tell, because obviously takes this very seriously. She's contacted so many people to say, hey, this is really important to me. And she's shown that in her dedication to our community. And I'm also going to give a shout out to Dr. Mike DeSena because he's a great guy too. So the 2 people that I really endorse happen not to be on your list. But I know you guys have done your due diligence. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bob Cowell.
Dear Mayor and Council, good to see you. Okay, it doesn't go up. Anyhow, I am supporting Sarah Halverson and Mike DeSena. Both of them I know personally, and their integrity is very high. I think that actually one of them lives near that, what I call monstrosity, but I used to live in that area on Vista Murrieta, where the old airport strip was, between 2.5 acres back in there. I sold that in 2006 or 7 before the crash. So, but I still live at the corner of, near the corner of Los Alamos and what's that main street there with CVS, and or used to be CVS. Anyway. What I'd like to say is I've lived here a long time where the building is sort of completely out of control. So, and it's not our fault necessarily. It's not your fault. It's the state's fault. But we need somebody to fight at the state level. And I know that we have fighters at the state level. However, you yourselves need to fight at state level. And we need people in the background of the planning committee. A commission that do the same thing. Got 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'd just like to say again that these 2 people, Sarah Halverson and Mike DeSena, I know personally, and I vouch for their integrity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Randy Meeker.
Madam Mayor, Council, good evening. I'm here today to talk about the application of Mike DeSena for the Planning Commission. Besides being technically qualified, if there is such a thing, through his experience in the United States Navy, Mike DeSena is eminently qualified through his demonstrated dedication to our community. He is a business owner, a homeowner, and he has children that go to our schools. The purpose of these commissions and committees goes beyond the mere title of the body. The secondary purpose of these commissions and committees is to foster involvement and ownership in what happens in our community. These commissions are how we grow future leaders and develop the next big idea that will make Murrieta even more of an amazing place to live than it already is. I know there are more applicants than there are spaces to fill, and that's a really good problem to have. I ask that you vote yes for Mike DeSena for Planning Commission. These positions should go to the person best qualified to fulfill the city's and the people's vision of what we want our community to be. And in my opinion, that person is Mike DeSena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deepak Kumar.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. This is my first time in any city hall, so excuse me if I fumble. My name is Deepak Kumar. I've lived here in Murrieta, Temecula region for 15 years. I have worked for the County of Riverside Information Technology for 19 years now. I'm here to support Sarah Halverson for the Planning Commission. We've known Sarah for a few years, and within that short time, I know how great person she is. Professionally, she's a self-motivated, dedicated individual. She has served our community, and she's a very smart individual. She learns very fast. I come from technology, but when I talk to her, she picks up things very fast. It doesn't take me a lot of time to explain her how things work. And I believe she'll be a very good candidate to lead our community to meet the challenges of the commission today and tomorrow. The world is all about technology in the future, and she comes with that young blood. I hope you consider her candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comments.
Thank you. I'd like to bring it back to the council. What is your pleasure? Dr.
Madam Mayor,
Forrest?
I would just like to say that once again, thank you all for your public comments. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate all the comments. And all our candidates were qualified. And that was amazing. And we enjoyed speaking and talking about various different community involvements. We asked you guys some really tough questions about the future Murrieta, and we really appreciated those answers. Matter of fact, I took a couple notes on some things that you both said, or all of that you said, because you were kind of in the same grain. And once again, I just appreciated all of you for being here. And whatever happens today, we want to encourage every one of you to please, if you don't get chosen, or you do get chosen, but please stay involved and come back and apply again. There's always commissions and committees. And a couple people that I will elaborate on, they would be on planning and parks and traffic, and so they really gave Ron and I, so if one was full, we could put somebody to another. So we appreciated that. So thank you so much. Just wanted to say that we enjoyed speaking to all of you.
Thank you. Councilmember LaBelle.
Thank you, Mayor Warren. The time that I was here in Planning Commission now almost 6 years ago, I remember the process very vividly. I don't remember the questions I was asked during the application. I remember kind of the topics and the criteria that were brushed over. After an interesting night, me and current Commissioner LaPaglia were selected. And it was, I think, an incredible 4 years. It was through COVID, so that was awesome. It was, like cutting your... The analogy of like drinking from a fire hose was certainly true, but it was a great experience, and I would almost assume necessary if you really want to understand how city government works, especially with planning. The question I have for our subcommittee panel, Councilmember DeForest and Holliday. Can you briefly talk about, or maybe not briefly, the objective criteria? And if you used objective criteria, what was the scoring mechanism in place? Did you have like a tally system?
We did not have a scoring system per se. We based it upon years of experience in years of living in Murrieta, what other activities they had been involved in Murrieta, what their background is as it related to what we felt would be, which is not an objective criteria, it was subjective criteria, what we felt the background would lead to be a good fit on Planning Commission. That was the main thing.
I did score with community involvement and activities in directly with the city or nonprofits, if they had been on a nonprofit or a Rotary or, you know, that type of thing. I scored them higher. Mm-hmm.
Any other question? Okay, and any more discussion? What would we, okay.
Are there any open seats in the other commissions right now, or were they all filled with the vote?
I think there was a couple of alternate positions that we didn't fill. We had at least one alternate on every commission, and there were a couple of alternate twos that were open. I don't know if the city clerk has that.
That is correct. There are alternates available, I believe, on all commissions, especially, I'll use Mr. Beamish as an example since he's an alternate one. So there was one alternate that was available, but then once the subcommittee moves Mr. Beamish up, if that is what's ratified, then of course I have another alternate. The policy doesn't require that you all fulfill the alternates, and so what we do is we just kind of take it from here, and then if it is the pleasure of the council, we can opening up for just alternates if you would like, but there are alternates, I believe, in every one.
Okay.
Yeah, an alternate too.
Can I, is it possible that we could do this, do the appointments tonight and then open it up, like you were saying, John, for anything that we had alternates to fill? Because we do know that it moves. Can we open this up for we'll open up again for, 6 weeks or whatever, how long you had it open for, and take anybody that didn't get chosen this time and actually just roll them on over to that?
Yes, we can certainly, the council can appoint based off of whatever it is the criteria you all determine, and you can direct me to open up for all alternate positions. And I can do that. It's generally a 30-day, I think the policy says 30 days it should be open. And then we can bring it back to the council and you can just appoint, or you could even do it now if it's the pleasure.
Yeah, I would suggest that if we're going to fill alternate twos, we fill from the ones that have already applied. We've already gone through the process. We've already noticed it. That would be my suggestion, is that we appoint from the group we already have.
Because we have alternate ones put in, but we don't have alternate twos for every spot. I was just thinking it might open up some other spots. Yep, here. Oh, sorry. It might just open up for other spots.
I understand what you're saying.
So
I would fill the ones that we have applicants for first, and then if we still had open spots, then go out for those, would be my suggestion.
Any further discussion?
No discussion. I mean, I think I'm going to make a motion to go in a different direction with the recommendation, if that's the time to do this. I don't know if there's any other discussion on top of that or before that.
Certainly can. Yes.
I'd like to put a motion for Mike DeSena to be in and open up 2 alternate positions on the Planning Commission.
I think we have 2 regular positions open on the Planning Commission plus 2 alternates.
I want to leave the one that was an alternate on the entire last year. Tom Beamish.
Mr. Beamish?
Yeah.
So you want to leave him as an alternate?
No, I want to leave him on the recommended vote in.
So your motion is to put him and Mike DeSena on the Planning Commission.
Correct.
In place of Keelan McCullough.
Correct.
And then what about the alternates?
Just have 2 alternates on that list instead of 1.
And you recommend?
Who would you recommend to be on the alternates?
Does that for the 5, okay, we have 3 appointments, never mind. So let's do.
We have 4 slots.
Let's take the alternate in a different motion then. Let's just do the first motion of DeSena and Beamish.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Mayor, I apologize. So is this council opting not to do any interviews of the Planning Commission applicants? I just want to make sure that they have the ability to answer any questions you may have. If not, that is the pleasure of the council, and that's fine, but then I would want to allow them a public comment because they were expecting to be interviewed. So I just want to make sure, in all fairness, that they're getting that before any motions are made. Not that it's already been done, but Madam City Attorney, am I conveying it accurately? So if this council does not want to do the interviews, I would like to call for public comment from the 5 applicants if they would like to do that.
Councilmember Lavelle, what do you want to do?
Yeah. Call for public comment.
Okay. We need a consensus up here. So let's go. Do we want to do interviews? I need a yes or no on that.
Well, we've all read the background information.
Okay.
Have we?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going.
I have Ron's email.
So it is is it consensus of the council that we are going to skip the interview process? Can I
I'm
hear?
fine with that
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
and go to public comment.
Okay, so then we will skip the interview process and we'll go straight to allowing each applicant to have their 3 minutes of public comment.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would go ahead, I'm going to actually, I'm going to call up Mr. Thomas Beamish.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you. I just want to take the opportunity, I appreciate the opportunity, is what I actually do. And I've been in Murrieta now 4 years, and we enjoy it, we love it. It feels like we should have moved here 40 years ago. I would tell you some good and bad news, though. After you make your decision, my wife and I need to leave. Bad news is my daughter from Pennsylvania is flying out tomorrow. The good news is she's flying back next Saturday to actually move in here to Murrieta because we love it with my grandkids and my son-in-law. So my wife and I are real happy about that. So after your decision, when we get up and walk out, it has nothing to do with you. So, and I would mention to Councilmember Lavelle when he was on the Planning Commission during COVID, I was the mayor of La Habra during COVID, and that was really fun. So anyway, I look forward to working with you, and I appreciate the time. So thank you very much.
Mr. Keelan McCullough.
Madam Mayor, council members, first off, thank you for the recommendation. I really appreciate it. I've been a member of Murrieta since 2011 when I bought my first house. My wife and I, we met at San Diego State, and she was from San Diego and I was from Orange County, and we decided to meet right in the middle and put a family here right in Murrieta. And this is where we raised our family. This is where we're going to stay for years to come. We have an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. And yes, I'm the vice president of Murrieta Valley Pop Warner. I've been in Murrieta Valley Pop Warner for 9 years. Never had a boy in the sport. God didn't bless me with boys, but he did bless me with girls. And I love every day of it. I played football until I was 26 years old for the San Diego Enforcers. Yes, I'm a San Diego police lieutenant.
Sorry,
and,
Southgate.
That's okay. But then when you don't play anymore, you coach. And that's what I do. I give back to my community by coaching. I give back to my community by offering my time. I've sat on 2 of these commissions, Traffic Commission, and yes, I did leave. You're right. And the Library Commission before that. And I served my term before I got on the Traffic Commission. And now, here I am, ready for the Planning Commission. So I ask that we keep the recommendation and leave me on the Planning Commission. Because I do have ideas on where I want Murrieta to go, where we all want Murrieta to go. We want that small town feel. We We want to keep that small town feel because that's what I love about Murrieta. So I just asked that. And I thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Michael DeSena.
Well, I thought I was getting interviewed today, so I wore my jacket fancy. So, Ms. Mayor, everyone else, thank you for considering me. I really do appreciate it and everything you did say. If I knew that extracurriculars were taken so highly, I would have talked about all of them, like my involvement with Care Solis, a program at Murrieta, like my involvement with my daughter's softball league. I've coached for them. I've also coached for I-9 flag football for my daughter. I've been here since 2016. I raised my family here. We're staying here. My wife now is right there. She's a physician here, luckily enough to work for Rancho Family Medical Group. I love this city. Clear direction. Small town feel is beautiful. City is growing though. We need new ideas. How to keep the small town feel while also growing. Ultimately, I served in the military. Before I went more combat oriented, I was a CB, which was civil engineering. I handled a $500 million budget across all of Asia, basically, which included major war zones. I was in charge of making sure the IBC, the International Building Code, was followed, as well as OSHA standards were followed. I'm very familiar with building bases around the world. Now, I've never done one in the city, like Councilmember Holliday has said, but I do understand what it means to serve. I ran for city council, and the city did show that they liked what I was saying. One of the things that our city clerk said was to understand the citizens that are going on here, to understand what they want and what they need. Well, I went door to door for months, talking to every citizen who were unhappy with how things were going. Hey, and at the end of the day, this is my way to serve. I made a promise to each and every one out here that no matter if I won or lost, I would stay in the fight. And this is my way to do it. I didn't have much time to prep for the interview, I'll be honest. I was on my honeymoon. When I found out, I tried to get in there and do the best I could. But I am engaged in the city. As mentioned, I do own a business here. It's a group mental health practice. I'm helping with the VA now. And up until now, I'm on Central Committee for the Republican Party as Congressman Isa's alternate. So I am very involved in this city. I love it here. My family loves it here. We will be here forever. 28 seconds. All right, time. My daughters play for MVGSA, where you can find me cheering them on, even though softball is not my sport. God did not bless me with sons either, but they did bless me with daughters that love softball. And my other daughter just started horseback riding. So that's a new one for me, and I love that as well. If appointed to this position, I will work very hard. I will put that education and my experience to the test, and I will put the time in. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Sarah Halverson Saha.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to serve my community. It is a huge responsibility that everyone, I feel like, is called to when you live in a community. I unfortunately wasn't able to do anything prior to this because I was in the hospital fighting COVID when everyone else was jumping into their kids' softball games and other committees. I wasn't able to do that. Unfortunately, I was working night shift on the COVID unit. And I'm currently trying to shift that position as I grow in this city. I also have 3 daughters, and they are growing up here too. And I want to make sure that this city is the place that they will grow and thrive for the rest of their lives. Whether or not I serve in this committee now or in the future, I'm here. I would like to support our city in any way that I can, if that is in this position or in another. I feel like I bring a lot of things to the table. The ability to critically think about what is going on and what is coming in the future. I have done this for my whole life as a nurse, following the instructions that are laid out, as is the city planning, the city general plan for the Planning Commission. I didn't know that was something that you guys were looking at. I do run 2 nonprofits in this city, and we are currently growing and expanding. And so if that's, if you're looking for a city service, I'm doing my best, and I'm moving forward. I do appreciate all the support that I had tonight and that I would like to bring to help support our city and how we're growing. I thank you for your time and your consideration. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I really appreciate all your openness and warmth in welcoming us to the city and to this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. John Rose.
Well, I'll be very brief. My name is John Rose. I live in Murrieta. I've lived here 10 years. I'm looking forward, if I'm selected, to work on the Planning Commission. I can tell you that I think I bring all kinds of qualifications and experience, and I hope that you think through the ramifications of selecting someone. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the council. Any discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. And before we vote, any more discussion?
Yes.
And we're going with Councilmember LaBelle's motion, correct?
That's the only motion on the floor at this time.
Are we allowed to make a motion for a different alternate at this time?
You can certainly make a substitute motion if you want to, but we were.
A separate? For the alternate?
You can make a substitute motion.
My second for Councilmember LaBelle's motion, a
substitute.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For an alternate for Sarah.
So if I want to get this correct, I want to make sure that I understand correctly that you are, you have a substitute motion that you would like to put Sarah in as alternate 1 or alternate 2?
Alternate 1.
Alternate 1.
What about alternate 2?
That is open at this time.
You want to make a for alternate 2?
With alternate 1 being motioned for Sarah, alternate 2, I would make John Rose.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, make sure I have this right. We have a substitute motion on the floor to make Sarah alternate 1 and Mr. Rose alternate 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
Or is John amending his motion?
Or are you amending your motion, John, to include all of that?
So she didn't absorb my motion with her. She had to state it. So I guess if that's
Instead, we could do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, John, would you like to please state your amended motion?
Motion to have DeSena nominated for Planning Commission with Sarah Halverson, alternate 1, John Rose, alternate 2.
And the other?
And Tom Beamish.
And
And Tom Beamish for the first position. That it was the first selection for the from the recommendation.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, would you please read that motion?
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Good luck.
Yeah. It's the amended motion I'm asking you to repeat.
Yes, and I believe Kimberly is prepared to do that.
Thank you.
Thank goodness for the deputy.
I have an amended motion to appoint Tom Beamish and Michael DeSena as regular members and appoint Sarah Halverson as alternate number 1 and John Rose as alternate number 2.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
And I have a comment, Madam Mayor.
Before we vote, comments, please.
Discussion. I just want to mention several of the applicants talked about fighting and fighting for what we need here in Murrieta. To be clear, the Planning Commission is not the place you fight from. Planning Commission has very strict guidelines on what you guys have to look at. The fight, if there is one, has to come from council. So if you guys see something that you by law are forced to approve, it's communicating with council that happens, because unless we actively go and look, we don't always see it. So I'm just letting you know, the Planning Commission is not a place to fight from, because you have laws that you have to follow, and there's no leeway to go against that law. And we've had problems in the past where the planning commissioners didn't like a project and either denied it or placed restrictions on it that they weren't legally allowed to do. And we don't want to get the city or the planning commission in trouble for that type of action. So I'm just clarifying that so everybody understands, including my colleagues, that it's not the place to fight from. Let us know, and that's our place to fight from. And we are working on plans to fight a lot of that stuff, which you'll be seeing very shortly. That's my only comment.
Dr. Force?
I would just like to concur with that as a planning commissioner, although you want to fight and you have to stay within the general and the specific plan, you can't go beyond that. Many planning commissioners have passed some of the projects, and the only one that gets to fight is a council member. So while we appreciate the fighting and trying to make change, please keep your ear to, and I know that most of you have my cell phone. Please reach out, and those are things that are really important to let council members know. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Lavelle.
When I was on Planning Commission, I think we had one, maybe two collaborative meetings between council and commission. So they're traditionally kept separate for a couple reasons. With the changes and the fight you referenced, Councilmember Holliday, and the tools we're trying to come up with to help the fight, I would be a strong advocate for, when the commission is selected, as moving forward, that we engage with them a little more heavily this coming year as we try to make these tools have a little more teeth to them. And so we are all on the same page with the changes that are going to be new for everyone.
City Manager Clifton, isn't there a policy that we are to collaborate twice a year with the Planning Commission?
To be honest, I'd have to go and look at that to be sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, there's a motion on the floor. Please vote. I know you're waiting on me. Sorry.
Motion carries with DeForest voting no.
Congratulations. Welcome to the committee, or the commission, my apologies. Moving on. Yes?
Were we going to entertain the other alternates, or are we going to do that at another time?
Well, I thought we were going to open that up. Did you want to open that up for others to apply? Yeah, 2 are on for planning now. I know we have some vacancies and the others. We can open that up. Okay, is that what we agreed to? Okay, everybody good to move forward?
Okay. Consensus, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
Do we have consensus to do that? Looks like we do, yes.
And Madam Mayor, if I may, for all the applicants for Planning Commission, if I can meet, I'm going to need to speak with them in the lobby out front.
And before you do that, I would like to thank each and every one of you, everybody that put your name in the hat, everyone that wants to serve. There's not a better problem in the world than having community wanting to serve community, and I thank you very much. Moving on, oops, there we go. Moving on to item number 12, presentation and review of the City of Murrieta's fiscal year 23-24, an annual comprehensive financial report and single audit report. Staff, may we please have your report? Anytime you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Jennifer Terry. I'm the Finance Manager here at the city. And with me tonight is Ashley Lopez, our Accounting Supervisor, who was instrumental in completing this year's audit, and Jeffrey McKenna, Senior Accountant with Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. We call them RAMS for short. And they are our city's independent audit firm. Tonight, Jeffrey will present the results of the city's fiscal year 23-24 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or ACFR for short, and the Single Audit Report, which is an audit of the federally funded programs. The ACFR has been prepared in conformance with the principles and standards in financial reporting set forth by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, often referred to as GASB. RAMS completed the audit of our fiscal year 23-24 financials in December. RAMS follows audit industry standards established by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. These standards require our auditor to provide an opinion on specific areas of the financial statements based on their observations, inquiries, sampling, and analysis. One objective of the financial update is to report on the city's financial position and operating results. In accordance with Statement of Audit Standards 114 and 115, the city's independent audit firm must report the audit results to those charged with governing the agency. Before I turn the presentation over to Jeffrey, I am pleased to share that RAMS has issued an unmodified, or also known as a clean audit, a clean opinion on the city's financial statements. Additionally, the audit results resulted in no findings for either the financial statements or the audit report. Because we've had a clean audit with no findings for the past 4 years, along with meeting other criteria, the city is considered a low-risk agency. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jeffrey.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to first thank the council for continuing to retain RAMS as your auditors for fiscal year 24. We really appreciate the opportunity to provide this service to the city of Murrieta and its residents. And I also have to thank Jennifer, Ashley, and the rest of the finance team here. It's due to their hard work and their diligence and responsiveness all throughout the audit process that it really could not have gone any smoother. You really have a great team here. So to start off, I'll talk about some of the different responsibilities between us as the audit firm and management of the city. So our primary responsibility as an auditor, and really the objective of the audit, is to audit the city's financial statements in conformity with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States, or US GAAP. We plan the audit to express an opinion on management's financial statements, and you see that's in bold there because we like to stress that management is responsible for the contents of those financial statements. We express an opinion on whether they're fairly presented in all material respects in conformity with US GAAP. We also have to remind everybody that we can provide reasonable assurance, but never absolute, because absolute assurance would essentially require us to retrace every single transaction, which is neither cost effective, and I think Jennifer would get really tired of us by that point. So as she stated, we have expressed an unmodified opinion, or a clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. And then finally, we also assist management in drafting the annual comprehensive financial report. The responsibilities of management include again, preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with US GAAP, and also for the design and implementation of internal control relevant to the preparation of these financial statements that serve to help prevent any material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. The governing body of the city has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure ethical and proper use of the city's resources, and also to ensure management fulfills its obligation to maintain this internal control structure over financial reporting. I'll give a brief overview of the overall audit process. It's split into two phases. First is what we call interim. So we come out here usually right around year end, fiscal year end in June. And this is where we're updating our understanding of the city's processes and procedures and the internal control structure. So we're sitting with finance staff conducting interview over, for example, the disbursements process, who's approving invoices, who's reviewing the checks that go out, and so on. So we review the systems of these various transaction cycles, and then we start to develop our risk assessment and our audit approach going into the year-end portion. Now, the year-end portion, that's where we're looking at the actual numbers that make up the financial statements. So we do this by sampling primary documentation such as invoices. We confirm cash and investment balances of the city directly with the financial institutions. We perform various analytical procedures over expenditures, revenues, look for any unusual swings, and then inquire with management and retrieve some documentation to substantiate that. We also read the minutes of the city council meetings to make sure that we're getting the appropriate context for all of the transactions that we're looking at. And then we also perform some agreed upon procedures over your appropriations limit resolution. So after that process of interim and year-end field work, we begin compiling the financial statement data and supplementary disclosure information in coordination with the city staff. We review a lot of the introductory material, such as management's discussion and analysis, the transmittal letter, statistical section for reasonableness, and concurrence with the information contained within the financial statements. On our side, we perform any closing meetings, make sure we have all of our documentation within our audit files. And then finally, we issue our final opinion, as well as these two other required communications, which I'll get into on the next slide here. So we issue a report on internal control and compliance. This report essentially details our consideration of internal control within the overall audit process. And this is where we would also report any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal control. In this case, we've not found any. And we have to emphasize that this report is not intended to express an opinion on the city's internal control, just to explain its relevance within the audit process. We also perform tests of compliance with various laws, regulations, city policies. And again, we noted no instances of non-compliance there. And then what we call the SAS 114 letter. This letter explains various items such as our responsibility as an auditor, the firm's compliance with relevant ethical standards, any significant risks we identified, significant accounting policies that we want to bring to the public's attention, as well as any uncorrected or corrected misstatements, if there were any. One thing I like to point out on the significant risks section, we do have a couple items in there, but I like to clarify that those risks are risks that we have to presume are present in every single audit that we do. Those are not unique risks to the city of Murrieta. That's just kind of giving some context to our professional skepticism in those areas. And then I'll briefly touch on the single audit portion. This focuses on the city's federal expenditures under federal grant funding. So we perform this in compliance with the uniform guidance. And this year, the major program under audit was the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds that's funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. Similar to the financial statement portion of the audit, We're looking at the internal control structure over this program, as well as substantiating amounts with source documentation and inquiries with management. And as a result of our procedures, we found no deficiencies or material weaknesses in the city's internal control structure over this program, as well as no instances of noncompliance. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have about the audit process.
Thank you very much for your great presentation. I'll bring it back to the council for discussion. Do you have any questions? Okay. Any questions down here for staff? I do have one. When you do a random selection of purchase orders, how do you go about picking, and how many do you pick?
So we actually use some software to create the selection for us. So we'll request the entire check register for the whole year. We have every single check the city sent out, and then we can tell the software, okay, give me 40 samples. So then we're getting 40 truly random samples with no, human bias as part of the selection process.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. Thank you very much. Hearing nothing else from council, let's see here, get back to where I was. Do I have any public comment?
No public comments.
Thank you. I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. I see nobody in the queue. I'd like to would somebody like to entertain a motion in a second, please? I have a first and a second. Our first from Councilmember Holliday, second by Councilmember Lavelle. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you again very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I could just add that in addition to Ashley, most of the finance department is on our audit team, and we wouldn't be able to complete our audit schedules and be ready for the auditor without them. It really is an entire team event and a group effort to complete our financials on an annual basis. So even though Ashley and I are up here, there is a whole team behind us that helped us complete everything.
When you go back to work tomorrow, will you tell them how proud and how much we appreciate all their hard work?
Yes, I will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 13, citywide traffic congestion. Oh, I'm sorry. We need to take a 5-minute break. I apologize. We're going back to item number 13. We're going to continue our city council meeting. Staff, can you please provide us with a report?
Good evening, Mayor Warren. Once again, lucky number 13. I'm going to delegate this presentation to Mr. Hitch, city engineer, and Brian Stevenson, consultant traffic engineer, talk about a pilot program that we talked about, I believe it was in December, to talk about some traffic mitigation for congestion in the city. Mr. Hitch.
Thank you, Mr. Mailing. Good evening, Mayor Warren. Good to see all of you this evening. Happy to be here to talk about traffic congestion, and because it's always an exciting topic for engineering. We always like to talk about that. Hopefully, how to relieve congestion is always what our objective is, obviously. But so we're here tonight to talk about a traffic pilot program. On December 3rd, your council requested that we present some alternatives in the form of something like a traffic pilot program designed to reduce traffic congestion, and kind of in a limited size and scope, as opposed to trying to do something kind of fully citywide. And so we looked at doing a predefined, like a predefined corridor, and we looking at Los Alamos Road, as you can see on the exhibit attached here, from a Hospitality Place to a Whitewood Road. This location has 10 traffic signals along the corridor, 2 of which are not city-owned traffic or maintained traffic signals. Those would be the 2 at the I-15 on and off ramps. I'm sorry, the I-215, thank you. As I've indicated, those two traffic signals are maintained by Caltrans. However, we do have input with Caltrans regarding the timing that goes in with those signals. So the program we've kind of outlined is going to basically go through 4 steps. And I would note that if we were to implement this program, we would recommend not starting this program until the Winchester ramps are reopened. So as we know, those were closed down in the middle of January, and we're expected to be closed for a period of 2 months, assuming there's no further delays. It's hard to tell right now whether or not we're getting much added traffic on Los Alamos, but you would hate to have something like that kind of distort the results of the program. So we really wouldn't want to be kind of starting this or implementing this fully until the results of that are kind of underway. But the 4 steps that we're talking about are just to kind of walk through them. First step is doing traffic counts. Step 2 is to perform some before travel time runs. Step 3 would be doing some traffic observation. And then after that, we would be doing some after travel time runs. So those are kind of the 4 steps that we would be going through and kind of walking through briefly each one. We did traffic counts. We did existing traffic counts on the Los Alamos corridor back in September timeframes last fall. And the reason we did that is we're planning on, we've done some additional timing based on those counts that we've submitted to Caltrans in order for us to have a synchronized corridor through that area. We need to be able to include the Caltrans traffic signals. We want those things looped into our synchronized timing. And so we submit that timing to Caltrans. Caltrans takes a while to review that timing, and then they get back to us eventually, and then we install that timing into the appropriate signals, and Caltrans installs that timing into their signals to coordinate with ours. So that's the way that process generally works. We recently submitted, I think just before Christmas, that timing to Caltrans, so they're in that review process. We're hopeful that we would have that back from Caltrans in the next month or so before the Winchester ramps are closed, so we can get that timing installed. We would like to do some additional counts, tube counts, probably put some tubes out on Los Alamos just to verify that nothing's changed with those counts that we did back in the fall. That's something we're still looking at considering. So after the counts are done, we then have kind of a baseline. We have all the information that we need, and then we would start within what we're calling travel time runs. We would do a before travel time run before we do any formal work. That before travel time run really sets the baseline, and it effectively would have somebody driving the corridor and timing it. They would be identifying the travel time from one end of the corridor to the other end, identifying any stops or delays along with that corridor during peak periods. And the peak periods are, would be probably morning, midday, and evening through the time periods that we would be doing our traffic observations. Later on in the process, after we do our traffic observation work, we would also be doing after travel time runs, and then those two would be compared with each other. So those are the travel time runs, which is basically steps 2 and step 4. Step 3 being the meat of the situation is our traffic observation. The idea would be to do this work from inside the traffic center. In order to do that work, we would need sufficient traffic cameras at intersections. As you can see from this exhibit, we have existing cameras at Whitewood Road and Hancock Avenue. From those signals, you can easily see Murrieta Gateway as well as the 2 on-ramps from each of those signals. From Hancock, you cannot see Vista Murrieta Road because of the curvature of the street that you see there in the exhibit. And clearly, you can't see anything further to the south of there. So the 2 signals there that are highlighted in the pink square, that's at Monroe Avenue and at Lincoln/Vista Murrieta. We're proposing adding 2 new CCTV cameras at those locations so that we would be able to bring that back into City Hall, be able to see those intersections, and so our observer would be able to see the entire corridor and see traffic traveling through that corridor. So once cameras are installed, we have full access. Staff would be observing traffic from the traffic center, and the idea would be to do those observations on the standard middle of the week days that we normally look at counts on. That would be normally Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We tend to avoid weekend. So the Mondays and Fridays are too close to the weekend. They get impacted by weekend traffic and whatnot. We tend to get more consistent information on the Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And we'd be looking at the peak periods, the 6 to 9 a.m. morning rush hour, the 11 to 1 midday lunch hour traffic, and the 3 to 6 p.m. Evening traffic. And we'd be planning on observing this for a period of 2 weeks. During this time, staff would be determining best how to adjust the timing necessary to further optimize timing in that area. As a reminder, this corridor is in a synchronization schedule. So, what that means is the objective during a synchronization schedule is you want to get traffic from one end of the corridor to the other end of the corridor in one direction, such that it hits light to light to light to light and stays moving in that direction. So the problem is disrupting that process of the synchronization. If someone was to manually impact that or change one of the signals, then you would have to change all of the signals in that synchronization, which is not very easily done with our current software and with our current system. I'm kind of bringing this up because of the nature of trying to do manual changes may be impractical during a synchronized corridor event. What we're thinking right now, the best approach would be to review the timing during an observation period, analyze what that timing has done, if there's changes that need to be made, and then make a recommendation for revisions to that synchronization schedule and implement that during the next period. So that would be effectively the next workday. Next workday, we then review how that change has applied, review how that's impacted the schedule, and effectively do that as a iterative effort over the period of 2 weeks. And so that would be the process. What I'm trying to do is right-size the expectations as far as what manual revisions would be to a traffic signal when it's in a synchronized plan. Just making changes on the fly to one location could really have disruptive efforts across the rest of the synchronized schedule, so to speak, if we were to do it live. So that's why we're looking at this kind of iterative approach. Hope that makes sense. I'm happy to answer questions with that as we get a little further into that. So that's the traffic observation. Step 4 again is performing the after travel time runs, which I've kind of previously discussed. Once we have that completed information, we would take the before and the after travel time runs. We would compare those, see what the results are of that data, and then bring that back to your council for further consideration and analysis. The overall cost of this program would be about $20,000 in total if we were to put it all together. I don't know that all of that money would be needed. The 2 cameras that we would like to install, I think, are needed almost regardless of whether we do this pilot program. So we're almost requesting that whether you proceed with the pilot program as it sits, as we're discussing it, of course, subject to change and your consideration. The cameras themselves are about $5,000 a piece to fully implement and install. So that would be about $10,000 in expenditures to have the cameras. If the staff observations, we may need to provide additional staff support from an outside consultant to assist with that. That would be where the other $10,000 would be coming from, would be to provide that additional staff assistance. It may be a scenario where we get into the first couple of days, we start with our own staff and we try to go through that, or we get through the first couple of days and we may end up finding that it may just not be worth spending extra money and staff time doing this pilot program. We may determine that it's not going to be fruitful or it's not useful or not getting the results that we would want to do. If we get to that scenario, then we would cut off the program, bring it back to you, and discuss alternatives on how to maybe proceed further. So that concludes the pilot program. We're happy to answer any questions or take suggestions that your council may have regarding either revisions, or if this doesn't fit the vision that your council was kind of looking for, we'd be happy to entertain those suggestions as well. Mr. Stevenson and I, and of course Mr. Mailing, are available if you have any questions.
Thank you very much for for investigating it, and in your report for explaining it. I'm going to bring it back to council. I have Mr. Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple questions. How long after Winchester Road is open are you planning to start?
I don't see any reason why we couldn't start almost immediately. I mean, unless you see any reason why we would need to delay that any further.
We are hoping that that coincides with Caltrans' response to us to implement the timing.
Well, I would probably encourage you to give a little buffer there so people get back to their normal routine. And some people may be still going, I'm not even going to go down there because for whatever reason. So I would give it maybe a week or two to get people onto the new traffic pattern as a suggestion. And in relation to the Caltrans timing of the light synchronization at the 215, we're moving forward with obtaining control of all the intersections throughout the city and the freeways, correct?
We are currently still talking with Caltrans about that in review of my City of Riverside MOU that they signed back in 2016 on the location up off the 91. They gave the City of Riverside the authority to control the timing of the traffic signal, and then state maintain that traffic signal. So we're actually looking to use that same process where we don't take any maintenance responsibility, but we are allowed to control the timing of that traffic signal. So yes, we're looking at that for all signals in the city of Murrieta that have Caltrans jurisdiction.
Perfect. Does that include Scott Road and Antelope?
It's an interesting one because it's actually maintained and operated by the city of Menifee. So we would probably work out something on that one, but would start without that intersection. I know it's one of your favorite interchanges.
Well, so I live 2 seconds from there, and
but we could pursue it.
Well, I can tell. I mean, that's not a Caltrans signal. That's a city signal.
Correct.
To Menifee or Murrieta. The problem is you have a lot more Murrieta traffic going through there than you have Menifee traffic. So I assume they're maintaining that intersection, the maintenance as well?
Menifee is doing that, and you're right, though. The signals at the new interchange at Scott Road are Caltrans jurisdiction, even though they lie within the city of Menifee, except for the Scott Antelope intersection.
Interesting. What do you think the timing of that's going to be?
In
our lifetime?
We're still waiting for, approval of the timing itself, but working with the folks we had, and I think it's probably been 18 months since we probably started this process at your suggestion.
Yes.
I would hope to get that done prior to school starting next fall.
Fall of 26?
No, fall of 25.
Okay.
I'm trying to be optimistic.
You scared me. Okay. What are the costs to do the counts? Traffic counts?
The counts have already been completed.
I thought Mr. Hitch said they were thinking of doing additional counts.
So we would hope that we'd be able to do that with our in-house technician. We do have our own tubes that we can do. We don't normally put them down on high volume roads. This is kind of a medium to high volume. I know Councilwoman Stone would argue is a high volume road. And it is high volume. I don't mean to take away from that. But things like Hot Springs, we wouldn't put tubes on Hot Springs. It's too dangerous. Plain Frogger trying to tape the tubes down on the road. This road, we may be able to consider that. If we determine it's not safe, then we would pay a consultant to do it. And what are we, about $1,000, a couple $1,000?
Where were you thinking of doing it?
Well, in September when we did the previous counts, that was prior to the bridges opening and Monamos opening. So we want to just kind of gut check that with a similar location. So on Los Alamos, west of Lincoln and Sky Park.
West of Lincoln.
Or Vista Murrieta Road, Lincoln and Vista Murrieta Road.
Gotcha. Are CCTV cameras capable of doing counts?
Not without an additional software. What we would propose to use those for is just to focus the 4 cameras that we have all in, say, the westbound direction in the morning so that we can see how far back vehicles are queuing when people are going to the Murrieta Mesa High School. And then in the evening, we would rotate those so that we can view that. But we don't have a software currently that would record that.
Because cameras can do traffic counts if we have the software, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Got to keep in mind too, though, the cameras that we have right now are one directional. We can rotate them to look at all 4 different legs, but we would only be counting whichever direction we're facing.
Understood. And my last question's not 100% related to this, but when we approve a new traffic signal from a developer, are we paying attention to which traffic signals we want CCTV on? And are we requiring them to put that on as the new signal goes in?
Yes, we have been since we developed this system. So mainly we like having them installed adjacent to the freeways. So every one of our freeway interchanges in the city has cameras on either side of it. And then we're looking at intersections of public streets that are 4 lanes with another 4-lane road. So if it's a minor road, we don't typically look at that as a location, but if it's adjacent to a school or 2 main line roads, then we would consider those as locations to add as a condition.
And we condition the developer to put that in, correct?
Yes.
Because I know there's a new light going in at Clinton Keith, just east of Whitewood, with that new housing development there. And then the apartments at Murrieta Hot Springs, west of Madison, is going to have a signal there. And the signal at Jefferson and Hot Springs is going to be upgraded. So I just wanted to make sure that we're...
Yes, that's a great question. Yes, we do. The Clint Keith and Errant Lane signal that's going in as part of Vintage Farms, that one we didn't ask for a CCTV camera because we have one at Clinton Keith and Whitewood.
And it's a straight shot.
And we can zoom a quarter mile east that direction.
Okay.
The 2 developments on Hot Springs, north and south of Hot Springs between Madison and Jefferson, we have cameras at both Jefferson Hot Springs and Madison Hot Springs.
So we don't need any more there. Okay. I should have known you guys are on top of it. Thank you.
Councilmember Lavelle.
Thank you, Mayor. Question and a comment. The Councilmember Holliday kind of touched on it. The camera, so we're looking at purchasing 2 cameras here. If our current ones cannot do the counts and traffic is going to get nothing but worse, could we maybe buy the higher model camera for these 2 so that as we evolve in the city for better technologies that will be equipped at least in these 2 spots before buying the older camera system?
Another great question. That's part of our adaptive signal project. So when we're working on the design plans right now for the citywide adaptive signal timing program. So that'll have software in the traffic room and software in each of the cabinets. So that is going to be one of the specs that we require of the new system.
And that will be backwards compatible with these cameras?
It should be, yes.
Okay. I would just want to make
and
sure
with new
that
cameras moving forward, yes.
Okay. Because any opportunity you have to get ahead of what's coming, you would obviously want to take that opportunity. And then just my comment is there's not many things right now that the city needs to spend attention and money on. It is the traffic. It's a very hot issue. So thank you for doing this, and I hope it yields some telling results.
Councilmember DeForest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a question. Is this budgeted, or where will this money come from, the $20,000, hypothetically, if we use all of it?
Probably in TMP. Yeah. So there's a couple of different locations we could pull this from, either our neighborhood traffic management program CIP budget, or we also have a budget for our traffic room. So we'll find the money in one of those 2 locations.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think that's Los Alamos is getting busier and busier. We have all those new apartments, and we have Mesa High School, which is just atrocious if you try to get out during that time. So if the traffic could flow on that road better, that would be absolutely amazing. So thank you for your effort. Thank you for looking into this, and hopefully we'll be able to get some good data to see if our money's well spent or if we've reached maximum gridlock and we can't do anything about it. So hopefully we will not be in that ladder, and we will be moving traffic along much better. So thank you for your time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman DeForest, or I'm sorry, Stone, did you have any comments?
I just wanted to say thank you to our city manager for bringing this forward. And I want to thank the entire team for your presentation. I'm really excited that, that this is going to come to fruition in the next few months. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I only have one concern besides the traffic. Lori driving the road, is that what you just said? If we throw one signal out of the synchronization pattern, I see that as a potential disaster. How can we fix that? You could actually set up your own traffic congestion by doing that, correct?
Yeah, that could be disaster. So what we're planning to do is observe the stream of traffic flow. In the morning, looking for the peaks were in the westbound direction in the morning.
Okay.
Around the lunchtime hour, it was the westbound direction. And in the afternoon, it was the eastbound direction. So we plan on observing those directions primarily. And we'll observe it. The first day will be a Tuesday during the set time periods. We won't change any timing at that point. After we've observed it and noticed that the queue extends too far, that left turn phase needs a couple more seconds, we'll add that to it, but we'll also take into account how that impacts the signals along the corridor. And we'll get it implemented for the next day, but we won't change it right that when we observe it, because we don't want that ripple effect.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I heard that correctly, that we're not just going to change it
And the adaptive
willy-nilly.
timing software that we get will be able to do that by itself much easier in the future.
Okay. No, this is an excellent way of trying to figure out how to fix congestion, and I don't know of any other way to do that. So I applaud our city manager and Lori and all of you for trying to find a way to figure this out. So thank you very much. If there's no more further questions, do you have any public comments?
Seeing none, Madam Mayor.
I know. Thank you. I'll bring it back to the dais for further discussion. Seeing none? Somebody like to make a motion? Oh, there's a motion and a second. I'm going to ask one more time. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it and all your hard work.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 14, adoption of the 2025 legislative platform. Welcome, sir. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Isaac Bravo, Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office. Tonight, the item before you is consideration of the adoption of the 2025 legislative platform. As background, next slide, please. As background, the city adopts a legislative platform annually to assist staff in the decision-making process when faced with legislative issues at the state and federal level. The platform has changed significantly since 2020, and at your left on this PowerPoint presentation, you can see this was the first iteration. It was more of like an after-action report. It's since changed, and this 2025 legislative platform is a significant change to what you're currently used to seeing. One thing to note here, the City Manager's Office exercises day-to-day legislative oversight. That means we're tracking, we're monitoring, we're looking at any sort of legislative items that are going to put in at the state and federal level. So just a quick overview on the legislative process. Typically, we follow that flow chart on the top. Legislation is proposed. We review it against the legislative platform. We draft a letter. It gets reviewed by the city manager and the mayor, and then it gets sent off to the legislature. If their item is not identified in the legislative platform, it goes to the subcommittee, which currently is former Mayor Stone and Mayor Warren for state items, and then for federal items, it's Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle and Councilwoman Forrest. Then, after you guys make your decision, if the subcommittees are not able to concur, the item comes to the council at large. And then the determination is made to proceed with a letter or to not make a motion on the item or continue on. So there are some significant format changes for the 2025 legislative platform. We've made this much more streamlined and concise. That was the goal of this 2025 legislative platform. So there were a lot of things that were removed, not necessarily because they didn't provide pertinent information, but because they were additional things that were a little bit superfluous. So you'll see that the removal of the executive summary, the priority project lists, a lot of things got consolidated. We went from 14 items down to 8, and then the assessment for the state and federal items were also removed. Content-wise, we added descriptions to the council goals to provide additional background to constituents. We had those 14 sections consolidated down to 8. We added biotech and the medical innovation to conform with what we are doing at the MIC. And then we removed COVID-19 and sister city items as they were a little bit redundant, not really advancing the legislative platform itself. So tonight before you for your recommendation is the approval of the 2025 legislative platform as presented, and additionally to provide staff with any additional direction that you might want us to incorporate in future iterations of the platform. And with that, that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much. I'll bring it back, excuse me. I'll bring it back to the council. Does any council members have any questions? Is this new or old on here?
It's new.
It's new, okay. Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Isaac, phenomenal job. I read every single word in the new legislative platform. I know that shocks my colleagues. I initially just kind of briefed it, and I'm like, yeah, you know, this is drastically different. I'm going to read every single thing. And I was really impressed with the quality of work that you put into it, and I think it's outstanding.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Lisa DeForest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to concur with that and say thank you so much for the time and effort put into that. It is a much clearer and concise document, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none. Any public comment?
Seeing none.
Bring it back to discussion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. I have a mover and a seconder. I have a first and a second. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
I also want to say what a great job it was. I too read it word for word, and I was so impressed. It was so easy to follow. So thank you for all your hard work. It was very well written. Moving on to item number 15, City Council Subcommittees and appointment of city affiliated boards and commissions. Staff, may I please have a staff report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we're going to be talking about City Council subcommittees and appointments of the city-affiliated boards and commissions today. That's therefore as a reminder of reference for the public. It determines the difference between an ad hoc committee and a standing committee. We do have 5 active committees currently, and what I would like to do is quickly review, we're going to quickly review the membership of the committees, the purpose, and make sure that it's really meeting the needs of the City Council. In addition to that, the city staff liaisons who basically manage those commissions or committees will are going to be available because they have added some input to this agenda report just to make sure that the purpose still remains the same for this council. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We have a worksheet that Kimberly is going to pull up, as it's going to be a fluid conversation as it is every year. And so if you're interested, we're going to want you to speak up, and we can always go back and change things, but it's just really to make things easy for you all. I did provide you with the history in your agenda report and who currently serves, and so hopefully that has been helpful, but I'd like to roll right into the first one. So the first one is your code enforcement policy. It's The purpose is to work with city staff to review the municipal code and applicable policies and procedures related to code enforcement, provide recommendations to this council on changes to code enforcement protocols. It will automatically sunset upon a final recommendation of those protocols. And so that's the gist of the purpose. Of course, it's 2 city council members appointed by this council, and it is ad hoc. So the note that comes from staff is they've basically met several times since its formation in April 2024. The subcommittee has identified recommendations which will be brought back to this full council. They anticipate the first quarter of this calendar year. Who sits on that? I apologize. I should have that at my, so currently it's Councilmember Stone and Councilmember Holliday. So the question that I have for this council is, it's relatively new, so does the purpose still work? And is there anybody who is interested on serving or remaining to serve? So if we could first ask, does the purpose still work for this council? And does this council have any questions for the staff liaison for code enforcement?
You have to buy me ice cream once a week if I continue this with you.
You're the one that started this. I should be the one getting ice cream, but I can't have.
It's a tough committee.
It is, but it's very necessary, and I think we need to see it through to the end.
Okay, I like peanut butter chocolate, just so you know. So, okay.
No ice cream till we're finished.
All right, I will
Thank you.
continue, sir. Yes.
So, yeah, I think it's important, and I think we need to wrap it up, and I think we need to probably have maybe 1, maybe 2 more meetings and finalize our recommendations to council and get this behind us.
Maybe bring a workshop forward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. I think that's what we talked about,
I think
right?
that's,
yeah.
yes.
Yep.
Okay. Any other interests, Madam Mayor? Okay.
You notice we didn't jump up.
So the purpose is working, and it would, right now it's Stone and Holiday are interested.
Yes.
Moving on to commission appointments. So this is, as you're familiar with it, hopefully, the commission appointments, it's a 2-member subcommittee. It's currently, as you know, council members Holiday and DeForest. It is a voluntary rotation, and it is so the subcommittee can interview all applicants. I just want to make sure that this purpose still works based off of the earlier discussion.
Madam City Manager, or Mayor, I'd like to address it, if I may.
Go ahead. You weren't in the queue, but that's fine. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a recommendation that we don't have a ad hoc committee. I'm going to give you for an example. I ran for office in 2024. If 2 of my fellow candidates had applied for one of the commissions, that, in my opinion, that would have been a conflict of interest. And I felt that I should recuse myself. Every year since I've been elected, I don't think we have voted the way that the ad hoc committee has suggested, from my memory. I could be wrong. But I think that's something that should come before council, and it should not be an ad hoc committee, and that's just my opinion.
Dr. DeForest?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, tonight we went against the ad hoc committee's recommendations and really didn't have transparency or consideration to the applicants. And I really don't think that that is fair to them, nor should we continue on something that was so, so challenging to those applicants to, I think, to be a little bit embarrassed to have some interpersonal relationships trump what the subcommittee did. So I would also agree that we need to get rid of the subcommittee for that as well.
Councilmember Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with my colleagues in part. The subcommittee's recommendations, I think, work very well for everything but Planning Commission. And so my recommendation would be to leave the subcommittee in place, although we could have saved half a day from Councilmember DeForest and myself had that been in place already, because a lot of those applicants were Planning Commission members. So if we were only doing 5 out of 9, still would have shaved off a ton of our time. 2.5 hours at 30 minutes a pop. So my recommendation would be is we keep the subcommittee for everything but Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission comes before the whole council, since that's seems to be the one that's more of a contention.
Councilmember Lavelle.
I think I like that idea. And just, for transparency, I guess, my decision to go against the recommendation of the committee was only based on my opinion of what I know and what I thought. And it was pretty forward, I know, but it was a vote. And so with that, I think because of the transparency of all of that happening in the public, I do like that it would be the same process that I went through when I was on commission. So I do agree with that as well. The Planning Commission only being that way, I guess I'd want the rest of my colleagues' comments on that one, because I think it's a good idea.
I know when I sat on this ad hoc committee a couple of years ago, commission, we had the same type of contention with the Parks and Rec. And it moves around. It's not just planning. So to be real honest with you, you may not have had any problems with the others this time, but we've had problems with the others in the past. So from past experience, I would say if we're going to do an interview process through the council, I would like to see a complete interview process and not half here and half there. That's
I agree with you,
my
Mayor.
opinion.
I'll make a motion that we eliminate that committee and it goes to full council for everything, including parks and library and et cetera. Because none of it is less important than the other.
Well, we need to do public comments before we do a motion on this.
Well, there's nobody here.
I know. I have to ask. Yes.
Yes, we would.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Thank you. May I please have that motion? I have a motion. Could you please repeat your motion?
To eliminate the ad hoc committee for commissions and committees.
I have a first and I have a second from Councilmember Holliday. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you. Please continue.
The next one we're going to discuss is homeless services. And so this is the formally structure of the Riverside Homeless Alliance and advocate on behalf of the City of Murrieta for new behavioral health campus in Southwest Riverside County. It will sunset upon the Riverside Homeless Alliance once they're formally organized through a JPA. The note from staff is that the subcommittee, let me see who it currently consists of. That would be Councilmember Stone and Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle. Yeah. My understanding is that due to lack of official business that the subcommittee has not met. There may be a need to expand the purpose related to a 4-city homeless collaborative, and if you have questions on that, Mr. City Manager would speak to that. And after that, you can determine if the purpose is still working, if that's okay with you, and then if anybody's interested, if we move forward.
Please.
Yeah, I would offer, in consulting with our Director of CSD, Brian Ambrose, his thought is that with the recent activities and gaining some momentum for broader regional support, that we would want to keep this committee going for now. But as described here, at the time where a formal JPA or a more solidified collaborative takes place, we'd likely disband it at that point.
Okay. I'll bring it back to the council for discussion. I don't know if this is new or old or.
Is the purpose working? I think yes, but I just want to city manager's comment, if we can define when that would happen. If we get that last city for the regional collaboration to be official, then that would be the cue for that one to go away.
There I am.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all.
Oh, I jumped on there with you. Are you on there too? Oh, right.
Okay, Council Member DeForest.
I think that since it didn't meet and our city staff says that it is viable, then maybe the two, Councilwoman Stone and Lavelle could continue serving on that, just because they didn't get an opportunity to serve the first time.
And also, colleagues, while we did not meet as an ad hoc, I did attend homeless outreach, homeless summits in support of Brian Ambrose and his team.
Okay. Is there any, no further comment? Is there any public comment?
Seeing none.
Thank you. Bring it back for further discussion.
The public is asleep.
Seeing none, I have a motion and a second. Motion from Councilmember Stone and a second from Councilmember Holliday. Please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm talking into my microphone.
Your mic is still on. I'm tired.
Okay, we're going to move on to.
I'm sorry, please move on.
We're going to move on to the legislative work group. Things are a little slow, including your clerk. So, legislative work group. This is comprised of. This is the. Isaac just spoke on that. State representatives and also federal representatives. The mayor shall serve as one representative. The purposes there listed for you on the PowerPoint. Work with the city manager's office on the ledge platform. It's rather, this is actually comes from the staff liaison for consistency, clear communication, and in the event city interests overlap between state and federal matters, staff recommends that the city council consider returning to the pre-2023 structure to where it is the mayor and a second representative to work on both the federal and state legislative matters. In 2023, the legislative work group was comprised of the mayor and a quarterly rotation of the remaining council members, which I can tell you was a challenge. I'm just speaking to that part of it. And so the question is the purpose working as it is written? Do you want to keep, right, the federal representatives and state representatives separate, or would you like to have the staff liaison maybe speak to this, which would be city manager's office? It is up to this council if you'd like more input or review the purpose.
Madam Mayor, being that you and I sit on the collaborative where we have plans to go to Sacramento, if it doesn't matter to me about DC, but I would really like to work with you in going to Sacramento and fulfilling that agreement with the 5 cities.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to keep on the Washington, D.C. piece. I've done my part here with Congressman Issa, but because of Councilmember Lavelle's schedule, when we were trying to put a D.C. trip together, we were unable to do that.
That was an elbow surgery.
That's okay.
Which one?
Yeah, there's been many. So, so due to health reasons, Councilmember Lavelle couldn't attend, but I would really like to stay on that DC piece because I have been working diligently in that.
I'd be interested in something.
Well, okay, I want to be real honest with you. I'd like to be on both. If we're going to go to DC or the state, I think it's very important that the mayor is representing the city along with a colleague. That's just my personal opinion.
I'll step aside if someone wants my spot with Councilwoman DeForest.
I'm not a huge fan of the quarterly rotation, just throwing that out there for my colleagues. I think we need to
How about the mayor and Lori go to the state and the mayor and I go to Washington, D.C.? So we'll have some continuity in the center, utilizing our mayor, but yet we still get to open up the.
Oh, we lost him again.
He's not going to participate.
Oh, okay. What do you guys think about that? That fine?
I'm fine.
Okay. I'll bring it back. Any public comments? So this is what I'm understanding that the consensus is that I will be on both state and federal. Councilmember Stone will be with me with state, and Councilmember DeForest will be with me in federal.
So am I understanding it that we're still going to have the two components?
Yes.
Just, okay,
With me being on both.
understood.
Me being the continuity. Thank you.
And that's DeForest and Stone, correct?
Correct.
Not Holiday.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So are there any public comments?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, bring this up. I have a motion by Councilmember DeForest and a second by Councilmember Holliday. Please vote.
Back you go, John.
You know, thank God he doesn't have a microphone. Yeah.
Are we done yet?
Yeah. We heard. We.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Moving on.
The next one is the Los Alamos Hills Sports Park Phase 2 Subcommittee. And if it'll pull up there, it is, the purpose there is to work with city staff to review options and feasibility of the soccer fields in an alternative city park, provide recommendations to this council on the direction of the Sports Park Phase 2 based on environmental requirements and feasibility. It will automatically sunset upon that final recommendation, so that's the current purpose. Staff has noted that the subcommittee has met since its formation. This is relatively new as well. It is discussing next steps to lobby RCA to determine criteria refinement. That's where the subcommittee is at, which is currently, who is the subcommittee on this one? It's Lavelle and Holiday. So if the purpose is still working?
It's still working. Would you like to stay on that?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I think the purpose is necessary, absolutely. I've been working with RCA since I'm the representative of RCA and have given them a ton of information about what they were requiring for that, and now they're reviewing that plethora of information with Mr. Chantaronks, who also got a copy of, to his dismay. Have you read it all, David? Not yet. That's probably their answer too.
So you would like to stay on that?
I would like to stay on that, and I think it's very, very important.
Okay, and
Do you have hope?
Yes, because we found a bunch of documents that
You-
prove,
You found those.
well, I got them through Larry Markham's office,
Okay.
who kept all the records from back when they were doing some contract work for the city. So city doesn't have them, but Larry Markham's office did.
so John, would you like to stay on the committee?
I will hold his hand, yes.
Okay. Okay. With that, any further discussion on that? No public comments? Seeing none, bring it back. We have a motion from Councilmember Holliday. I need a second, please. From Councilmember Stone, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously, 5-0.
Moving on.
Thank you. So next, we're going to move on to the city-affiliated organizations. So Kimberly's going to pull up the worksheet that I referenced earlier, and we're just going to go down the list like we normally do. Again, it's fluid, so just feel free to let us know if you're interested or not. The first one is Animal Control Joint Powers Authority, and that currently is Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle as the delegate. The alternate is Councilmember DeForest.
I'd like to stay on that, or if you want to stay.
Do you have any interest in swapping, or do you want to Stay the same. I'll stay in this.
What day is it?
It varies.
It varies.
Yeah, they meet every quarter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You want to swap?
Sure.
And then we'll swap back next time?
Sounds good.
Okay.
They swapped.
So DeForest is a delegate and Lavelle is the alternate.
Correct.
The second one is the City Selection Committee, LAFCO. The delegate is Councilmember Holliday. The alternate is Councilmember DeForest.
I'd like to move off of that because it seems like it's last minute and I can't do last minute.
It doesn't, we are not required to go to those meetings that you're noticed about.
Well, they scare me to death because I think I have to move patients, and so I'd rather just be off that one.
They had one meeting that they requested me to be at. I showed up and they canceled it 20 minutes before I got there and didn't tell anybody. And then the next one, the replacement for that meeting was in Indio.
Okay,
And I
definitely
declined.
want that one. Yeah.
So what do we want to do here?
I'm happy to stay on it because it doesn't require any work.
Okay. Who would like to be the alternate?
No work alternate. Count me in.
Okay, there you go. Moving along.
The League of California Cities, the delegate is Councilmember Stone. The alternate is Mayor Warren.
Yeah, I'd like to stay because I've been appointed to their national committee for housing and homelessness. So I'd like to stay on as the delegate, please.
And I'd like to stay on as the alternate if nobody else wants to do it. But if you do, I'm happy to withdraw. Okay?
Okay.
Moving along.
We're going to move on to the Regional Conservation Authority, RCA. Delegate is Holliday and alternate is Stone.
I want to remove myself as an alternate.
I'll take your spot.
Definitely want to stay on as a designated one. That committee requires a ton of work, which I'm happy to do, and the continuity of staying on is important.
Okay, moving on.
Thank you. Riverside County Habitat Conservation Agency, we have DeForest as the delegate and Lavelle as the alternate.
I'd like to stay on that if possible. It's doing a lot of good things, and it's been nice because I was the chair as well.
Can I ask you a question? That's just for one critter, right?
No, it is for other critters too. There is a little bit broader scope, but yes, it is a one critter, which is now off the.
It's not the endangered. You guys have done a great job. Why is there still a committee?
Well, I asked that, but we're doing other things like brush clearing and doing stuff for other habitat creatures as well.
What's the critter?
Stephen Kangaroo Rat.
Oh.
Which is now delisted.
Yeah, but he's,
Hunting season.
He's, oh my goodness, okay.
Okay, moving right along here. Did you want to keep your alternate spot?
That's fine. Unless someone wants it, I will stay on happily.
Moving right along.
Thank you for hunting it. Yes.
Lost control.
Okay, we're going to move on to RCTC.
I would like
and
to
that would
stay
be
on, please.
Warren and Stone.
I want to remove myself as the alternate.
When does that meet?
They are the second Wednesday of every month.
Every month, and I usually go, I never missed a meeting, so you won't probably have much to do.
I'll be your alternate if you never miss a meeting.
On a Wednesday. On a Wednesday, okay.
Yeah.
So we have Warren and DeForest, is that what
Yes.
I'm hearing? Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
moving on.
Okay, RTA, and it's Warren and Stone.
Since I was just named second chair, I'd like to stay on that as well.
You can remove me as the alternate.
I'll pick that one up.
You want to pick that one up? Okay. You won't have to do anything, I promise.
That's why I picked it.
I know. Moving on.
The Southern California Association of Governments.
Best acronym ever. I'll stay.
Thank you, Mayor
I'll
Pro
stay as
Tem.
the alternate as well.
And Madam Mayor, for the record, I'd just like to note, without doing a motion to second, with consensus, can we move this council meeting beyond 10 o'clock?
Yes.
Do I have, does she have consensus?
Do I have consensus?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
5
So
minutes.
Western Riverside Council of Governments, WRCOG.
I would just like to thank my alternate, Councilmember Holliday, because my husband was at a cardiologist appointment almost every month during that meeting. So we are moved past that, but I still, I just want to thank him for for being there for me and really being an alternate beyond alternate. So thank you, Councilmember Holliday.
Do you want to keep your spot or you want?
I don't.
Okay.
Just because if something comes up, I want to be able to go with my husband to his doctor.
So who would like to take that delegate spot?
I'd like to take the delegate spot, please.
I'll stay on as alternate.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then lastly, we have the city affiliated, falls under miscellaneous. It's the Southwest Riverside County Elected Leaders Collaborative. That is currently Councilmember Stone and Mayor Warren.
Yes.
And
I'd like to stay.
if I can ask a question on that, there's really not a delegate and alternate, it's both of them, right?
Yes, I misspoke. So that's why Kimberly moved over to the PowerPoint, didn't she? It's a collaborative working group, correct, and it is both members.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with keeping it as it is? You're still on our CTC. Yes, I am. Yeah.
It's important.
Okay, yeah, I agree. Okay. So now I'm going to ask, is there any further discussion up here? Is there any public comment?
Seeing none.
Seeing none. I will bring it back to the council. I have for a motion, I have Councilmember Holliday and a second from Councilmember DeForest. Please vote.
Where have you been? It's been going on for like 3 days.
In Friars, right?
Yeah, it's bad.
Thank you very much, Madam
Motion
City
carries
Clerk.
unanimously, 5-0.
We are going to move on right now to notifications. Notice of pending approval of final parcel map PM 38373. Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Notice is hereby given that the City Council shall be notified of review and approval of the final map application for parcel map 38373 TPM 38373. An application was filed by GS Parks at Murrieta LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, for parcel map number 38373 to subdivide 31.39 acres into 8 parcels for residential use. Engineering staff has completed a review of the final map for conformance with the Subdivision Map Act and the Murrieta Municipal Code, and that concludes the notification.
Thank you. This is a receive and file.
It is just a notification,
okay,
so no
thank
action
you.
is needed from
Thank
this
you very
council.
much. Reconsideration, Madam City Clerk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any council member who voted on the prevailing side of the original motion may move a reconsideration to consider new information or correct inadvertent errors on a non-public hearing item at the same or the next meeting. At this time, are there any requests from the City Council? Seeing none?
Seeing none.
Governing body announcements, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. That's where I was headed. Okay, governing body now. Reminder, announcements shall not exceed 2 minutes. And we're going to start with Councilmember DeForest.
I would just like to say I will receive and file. They are on the website if you'd like to see them. My cell phone is also listed, as well as my email. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Stone.
I'll defer, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holliday.
My one item is listed on the website as well, and I'll defer.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Lavelle.
I will also defer. Thank you.
Well, mine are done, and I just want to thank the police department for a fabulous program, Shop with a Cop. Just an amazing way to spend the day with some really terrific kids. So thank you for letting me be a part of that. And I will tell you that I attended a Martin Luther King service at the View Church Sunday night. I have never been so inspired in my entire life, and I've never said amen so many times. It was a fabulous service, and it was really great. So I wanted to let you know we will receive and file my report as well. Moving on to council member request to add or withdraw items from future agendas. Now is the time for council members to request to add or withdraw items to future agendas. There will be no discussion on the request. A brief explanation of the request may be given. The merit of this item being requested may not be discussed or debated. Now, are there any requests from my colleagues?
Madam Mayor, I have a request.
Okay.
I want my poor chiefs to put your seatbelt on. Colleagues, I'd like to bring back for a discussion for us to do a scenario on a disaster in our community.
Excuse me.
Like an exercise of what would happen in that scenario.
Correct.
Okay, and I was.
Does our city manager want to just touch upon that a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but what this is driving at is to get deeper insight and further our goal of being prepared for a disaster. What I might recommend is that if we start a little bit, I don't want to say at the beginning because at the staff level we've done a lot, but we already have in mind to have a deeper conversation about emergency management, get you familiar with the plans that we have, what they call us to do, and some training regarding the roles and responsibilities and how they're different for the electeds than they are for some of the staff. And we do regularly have either tabletop exercises or a deeper scenario exercise where we practice a hypothetical disaster situation. I think that might be a more meaningful activity after we have a workshop on emergency management and some training so that you're familiarized with the roles, responsibilities, and even some of the lingo. And then we could kind of put that in a box where you would be playing your actual role and observing what some of the staff does in their actual role at the same time.
Thank you.
Would that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect.
I have one.
Seriously.
I do. So I have a friend.
You have one?
I have one friend. He was a local guy. He moved to Texas, and he invented the little bicycles that are called Stasic. They're electric bicycles, and you've seen many kids ride them. Harley Davidson bought the company, and now he's the head of product development for a company called Livewire, and it's their electronic motorcycle division. They are looking for a pilot city to work with PD, our school district, and our city to establish technology for enforcement, regulation, safety protocols, to help with some of the problems you guys are all well aware of. I would like to invite him to an open discussion with council, city staff on him just explaining this and what they would like to do as a concept as the first city with this company.
Okay, do we have consensus?
Yes.
I have 1, 2, 3. We have consensus? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are you done? Okay, tonight we're going to adjourn, but before we do, we're going to adjourn in the memory of a very special person. I would like to request a moment of silence in honor of Mrs. Joan Sparkman, who passed away on Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Joan was a long-standing civic leader in the Southwest Riverside County community. Over the course of more than 5 decades, she made a lasting impact through her numerous contributions. Joan served for over 20 years on the Temecula Valley Unified School District Board, where her advocacy for education helped establish the foundation for up to 25 new schools. Her dedication to education continued during her 14 years as a trustee on the Mount San Jacinto College Board. Additionally, she served as its chairperson of the Board of Governors for Southwest Healthcare Systems and was involved with various civic organizations in the Murrieta, Temecula community. Her legacy and dedication to the Murrieta and surrounding community will continue on, and the memories they created will remain and be remembered by those who knew her. And one of her favorite quotes was, "Until you give back to the community, you'll never know true success." So I'd like to adjourn tonight in honor of Joan Sparkman. Meeting is adjourned.